Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our second cram course. This one on English Literature Paper 2. I am your host for this evening. I'm Louis. Tonight we're going to be looking, obviously, at Paper 2, which is, of course, modern texts and poetry. Okay, so the specific modern text that we're going to be looking at on this stream is An Inspector Calls, and the specific anthology poetry cluster we're going to be looking at is Power and Conflict. I'm just going to remind everyone that this is, of course, AQA, and we're going to be looking at unseen approaches for that final part of the paper. Okay, so good evening to you all. Amazing to see so many of you here already. Where's my hair, Leah? I mean, my hair was all trimmed off. Nice haircut. Lots of comments on the hair, but yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate that. It was very hot. I was sweating through my hair, so had to do it. Guys, let's all make Vanny feel very welcome. Vanny is going to be our mod for this first session. She's a superstar, super mod, and a bestie. How long is Inspector Calls for? Hannes, we're going to do first hour on modern text, so An Inspector Calls for the first hour until 6:30. Are we going to analyse poems? Yes, Max, we are indeed. Ritter, who is doing love and relationships? That's going to be with Alex. I will create the life I want. Great handle. Hello, my goat. Hello, my goat. How are we doing? Someone just said, I know 0 quotes and 0 poems. Should I revise or rest? Okay, I take back my previous statement about always recommending rest. I would recommend getting some quotes in. How come it doesn't start at 4? Chelsea, we decided to start these at 5:30 instead of 4, simply because a lot of students were saying that they were still in school or had other sessions until 4, and so they were missing the beginning of it. That's all. Okay. Jonathan Hulse, should I leave if you do Lord of the Flies, come back for Power and Conflict? Yeah, that would be a good idea. So for those of you asking about specific timings, this is the structure of tonight. So 5:30 to 6:30, we're looking at modern texts. I'm looking at Inspector Calls. Alex is doing Blood Brothers. So if you're in the wrong place and you're doing Blood Brothers, head on over to his stream. You should find the link in the description. So obviously Blood Brothers for him. The reason that we do these texts are they're the two most commonly studied texts across the board. But An Inspector Calls is by far the most popular. So Blood Brothers only has about like 4% of the population doing it, but still higher than any of the other alternatives. We're going to have a changeover, which means that anyone who needs to swap over at 6:30, they will be able to do so. For anthology poetry, we'll be at 6:35, we'll start doing it. Power and Conflict is going to be here with me, and Love and Relationships is going to be over there with Alex. Okay. King Stealthblade, yet again, telling me not to dilly-dally. There's no dilly-dallying here, my friend. But I appreciate the advice, my guy. Dun dun dun. Do I recommend taking notes, Charlotte? Yeah, so that's what the workbook is for. I would highly recommend having the workbook so you can make notes on it. Cool. Would it be grade 9 analysis? That's the plan, Sarah. Yes. Cool. Are we analysing all the poems or just a few of the most important ones? Rita, so we're going to have a look at the poems in pairs. We're going to probably compare about 8 of them. So it's impossible to do all of them within the time. But I'm going to recommend a few kind of connections that would be a good shout. Okay. Lots of comments on the haircut tonight. I appreciate it. So for unseen poetry, obviously you'll stick with whichever teacher you were with for anthology poetry. All right. What's up, Com? My guy. Good to see you here. Interesting. Lots of people having envy over people in different poetry clusters. I do understand that. Christinium, is spag and vocab range marked? So AO4, yes, it is assessed on one of the questions. We'll talk about that when we get there. All right. Hi, Daisy, one of the OGs. How you doing, buddy? Do we do Worlds and Lives? Sadly not. So just a couple of FAQs. What exam board is this for? This is AQA specific. If you're with a different exam board, the texts, if they are repeated, you can obviously stay for that session and get some insight onto the texts. But otherwise, I would say the course is not specifically for you guys. These are the texts, as we just mentioned. When's the exam? Well, it's tomorrow. That's supposed to say... That is supposed to say Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, 20th of May. Can we watch Bat Lady? Yes, it's going to be recorded. You guys, if you have to go for another session, then by all means, come back and have a look at the recording so you can check that out. What's my prediction? So you guys, I don't make predictions deliberately because it's so broad. If you can have any character and any theme and there's no kind of 5-year rule that limits you to a certain number of themes, it could be on anything. Okay, we will have a break between each session, especially for changeover if you go into different streams. And the mods, such as Vanny Supermod and Etta Supermod in the house tonight looking after us. They answer the technical questions. They keep things respectful and efficient. Okay. So use the chat to contribute suggestions and ask questions. Please, nothing else. No spam, no beef. Louis is a vegetarian. Keep questions relevant to the text or exam unit currently being addressed. So please don't ask me about English language, for example. Yeah, standard. I appreciate that. Aisha, loving the no beef policy, cheesy as always. Actually, no cheese either, because I'm actually thinking of turning vegan, not just vegetarian. Use the workbook to record notes, practice skills questions in. It will be a revision guide for later. And when I say later, I mean later tonight. And yes, I am in fact a vegetarian. And when I say remember your humanity, I just mean be nice to each other. We're all, we all care. We're all trying to achieve the same goal. All right. Shout out to my fellow vegetarians. Someone asking about the workbook, printing it. Yeah, I would recommend it. Leah, are we going to be doing a live before the English language as well? Yes. Yes, we are going to be doing the English language crams as well, where we'll be doing a full walkthrough of a paper that we have made as a company. Yeah. All right. Let's lock in. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me already, I'm Louis Provis. I'm a fully qualified English teacher, head of English here at My Headspace. Spent over 11 years teaching up and down the country. I studied English at the University of Oxford and Cambridge, masters from both universities, PhD ongoing. 9 years of experience being an examiner for the exam boards AQA, OCR, EdXL, and EDUCAS. Obviously, relevant for tonight is AQA. So that is me. I'm not doing this to blow my own trumpet, just so you guys know who I am, who it is that is talking to you. And yes, I do not play golf either. Is this grade 9 analysis what my write-up of where I went to school? Yes. Stephen, is that my dating app photo? It is not. No, I'm not a single chappy. All right, guys, share the link with your friends. If there's anyone you think who could benefit from this, it is obviously free, so they don't need to do any signing up. They can just jump in and lock in. Please just copy the URL, share it with your friends. If you have friends, if you don't have friends, share it with your enemies so that they can suffer through it too. Before we begin, quick heads up, subscriber only mode. You've probably noticed that already, so that we can kind of manage numbers. Smash that like button, turn on notifications. This essentially just means that we can grow. And if we can grow, it means that we can offer more things for free like this. Okay. How long will this be? This is going to be a 3-hour session. It's going to be a 3-hour session. We're going to go from 5:30 to 8:30. And the plan is to spend the first hour, obviously, someone's just asking about timing, so I'm going to put this back here. First hour is on and inspector calls. Then we're going to have a 5-minute break and changeover. Second hour and a quarter is going to be on the anthology cluster. And then the final 45 minutes is going to be on unseen poetry. Okay, so that's the structure of things tonight. All right. So there are also other crams for your other subjects, specifically maths, biochem, physics, and of course English. And we're going to have English language crams next, later on this week, and then after that. Okay. This is AQA indeed, Jesse. Please, what exam board? Yeah, my shadow. That's just been answered. Okay. Will it be deleted or can you watch it later? Ari, it's going to be recorded. It's going to be recorded. But guys, sign up to the other cram courses. You will not regret it. For the other courses that are split in, for the other subjects that are split into tiers, so foundation and higher, there are different options. Sir, I have a crush on you. Well, who wouldn't? Okay, so also when it comes to later on in this session, if you have learned some things and you've enjoyed it, check your email where you'll have a link to Trustpilot and you can leave me a lovely review saying that you are my new bestie. Okay, Mia, sadly, we do not offer Lord of the Flies because it's not the most popular text. Okay, guys, let's lock in. Let's jump in. Let's go for an Inspector Calls Act 1. What I want you guys to do is to shout at me, not literally shout at me. Let me know your the words for the gaps. We're going to jump in and just quickly revise the plot so we feel really confident on it. Any links to themes we will crack on with. All right, guys, it is, of course, Act 1 begins with the Burling family, my guys. The Burling family, although my TikTok, for those of you who follow me on there, it always autocorrects the captions to Burling with a U. People love to comment on it. Arthur, Sybil, their daughter Sheila, and her, of course, fiance. Some of you spelling it with 2 E's. It is just 1 E if it is the male fiance. Gerald Croft, celebrating Sheila and Gerald's engagement at their home in 19... what? When is it? When is this taking place? And this is really, really important that it takes place in 1912. Before we jump onto the next gap, why is it so important that it takes place in 1912? What happens in the years to follow? Let's think about I mean, there are all sorts. What happens in some of these years to follow? Okay, so 1913, we of course have the King's Horse incident, which changed the world for women for a long time. 1912, of course, we had the year itself, we had the Titanic. 1914, we had World War I. 1939, we had World War II. 1928, we had votes for women. Okay, the world was changing all around these people. Okay, and of course, Eva Smith, poor girl, never got an opportunity to see the women's suffrage movement change the world for her. So, sad times. The mood is initially jovial and self-congratulatory, with Mr. Burling a wealthy what? What are we going to call Mr. Burling? Someone enjoys my red cheeks. Maybe it's the lighting in here, or maybe I'm just warm. Businessman, capitalist, yeah, any of those, totally legitimate. Let's go with capitalist. Like that, then we can immediately start thinking about our AO3 connections. Making optimistic speeches about the future, including his dismissive views on the likelihood of what? What does jovial mean? Jovial means upbeat and happy. Unlikelihood of, well done, guys, war. And the unsinkable, we already said this one, Titanic. His confidence reflects his what mindset and belief in what? What are we going to call it? What are we going to call his mindset? Arrogant. Love that, Molly. Yeah, I agree. Myopic is a fabulous word. I missed who said that. Kizario. Yeah, myopic. What a fabulous word to use there. Myopic, by the way, means that you're blinkered. You are not looking around. You've got a fixed mindset. You're closed-minded. And his belief in, as lots of people said, capitalism. Yes. Nice. All right. Beautiful stuff. Yeah, lots of people saying bourgeois would also be relevant too. The atmosphere shifts when the doorbell rings and Inspector what's his name? Ghoul. Ghoulie. Nice one. Yeah, Inspector Ghoul. Everyone makes the comment here on what we call nominative determinism. Nominative determinism is basically where your name reflects something about your character. Okay, nominative determinism. It basically, think about all of the Harry Potter characters, like Snape sounding kind of like Snake, Draco sounding a bit like Dragon, Malfoy sounding a bit like Malfeasance, etc., etc. Okay, nominative determinism. Ghoul, suggesting that maybe he's a little bit like a ghost, maybe a bit of a spirit, a little bit not of this world. Okay, he explains he's investigating the suicide of a young working class woman. We know who she is. Eva, thank you guys, thank you Tia. Eva Smith, who drank disinfectant. The inspector begins questioning the family, systematically revealing their respective connections to Eva. Mr. Burling is what first? What's the word we're gonna use to describe what is done to him? Interrogated. Yep, nice one. And at this point, it is interrogated makes it sound a little bit intense, but at this point, it's probably just questioned is fine. Because he's fairly cooperative, even though he has clearly done wrong. At this point, he doesn't realize what a big scandal it's going to be. Admits he employed Eva at his factory, but whatted her. Well done. Fired, sacked, removed her. Any of those would be absolutely fine. For leading a strike demanding higher wages. He what's his actions? He does what to his actions? I don't play football. That would suggest something completely different about his character, wouldn't it? He defends, yeah, totally. He defends or justifies his actions at this point. What year were the votes for women? Tia Alexander, 1928, I believe. Good. Dismissed, people says, ignores his actions, totally fair. Insisting he acted within his rights as a businessman, but the inspector challenges his lack of what? Classic. Well done, you guys. People are answering this one already. Social responsibility. You guys are smashing it. Okay, so really, really simple, these ideas so far. Just a quick refresher because we want to be confident going in. Okay, Sheila's next, and her connection to Eva emerges after being dismissed from Berling's factory. Eva worked at a what store? Not a thrift store, Hester. It's very important that it's not a thrift store because that would suggest that it is, low income or low cost, rather. Yeah, nice one, guys. A clothes store where Sheila had her fired out of what? What's the reason that she has her fired? What issue does she take with her? Jealousy, guys. Yeah, envy. I can't fit jealousy on the line, so I'm going to put envy. And spite. Sheila feels immediate what? Unlike her father. What emotion does she instantly feel? Yeah, well done, guys. Regret or guilt, okay? So guilt, and remember, and we always talk about this, those of you who've attended my classes, we always talk about the difference. There's two types of guilt. There is literally culpability, which is where you are legally responsible for something. You can be held accountable. And there is the actual emotion of feeling bad, which is remorse, okay? So remember, when you use the word guilt, you can explore the different meanings there. Summer, jovial means happy. Okay, Gerald's reaction hints at his own involvement with Eva, even though he initially tries to what it? What does he initially try to do about his involvement? What are we thinking? Deny it. Yeah, good. He initially tries to deny it. It ain't going to work. By the end of the act, the inspector has established that each family member is linked. Okay, so all of them, even before they've all been questioned, to Eva's tragic downfall. His probing questions unsettled them, particularly Sheila, while exposing cracks in their self-satisfied facade. The act ends on a tense note with somebody about to confess his role in the events. Who's it going to be? Samlock, can you compare the characters to the 7 deadly sins? It would be a reach, but you could probably do it. You can do that with most things. You can push it on there. Yeah, well done, guys. It is, of course, Gerald who is about to reveal his connections. By the way, guys, facade is a great word that you can use. That is where you hold up a kind of a false self to other people. Someone just asked about facade. All right. Act 2 begins with a heightened sense of tension as the inspector continues the investigation. Gerald Croft admits his involvement with Eva Smith, whom he knew as what? What was her name that he knew her by? It was a different name that he knew her by. What was it? Nice one, guys. Daisy Renton. Daisy Renton. Okay, we can talk again about nominative determinism. Okay, Daisy, like a flower to be plucked, or Renton, sounding a little bit like Rent, with her associations with the women of the night, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can play about with that one idea. Okay, he explains that he met her at the Palace Bar where she was working and took pity on her because she was being what? What was she being? What was happening to her at that time? So can I post the filled in booklet? I can try. Yeah, nice one, guys. She is, of course, being harassed by Alderman Megati. Okay, she's being harassed by Alderman Megati. Gerald arranged for her to live at a friend's what? Ayan, example, this is AQA. But obviously, we're just talking generally about the text, so it's anyone. Okay, nice one, guys. At a friend's flat or apartment. Okay, and began and what with her? Yes, of course, it is an affair. Okay, an affair with her. We call it an affair quite simply because he's already with Sheila at this time. Justice for Sheila. He eventually ended the relationship, providing her some money. He insists he was kind to her, but it becomes clear that he used his power and privilege for his own benefit. Gerald's a bit of a scumbag. He's forgiven by basically everyone on the stage, and probably by the audience at the time. But as modern audiences, we are not too happy with how he kind of manipulated his power. All right. Sheila, devastated by Gerald's what? What can we call that? So lots of people saying actions. I like to be more specific, and Mahi has just said infidelity is kind of a more specific word for what he's done. Okay, he has been disloyal to her. Beautiful stuff. Well done. Returns his what? What does she return to him? In response, so infidelity is basically cheating, being unloyal. Engagement ring, well done. Engagement ring, she returns it. The one that she was admiring earlier, she returns it to her former fiance. Then the focus goes on to Sybil. She tries to assert her authority, dismiss the inspector. However, it's revealed that Sybil is a prominent member of a what type of charity? What type of charity was it that she was a member of? And it's important that it's this type of charity. It is a women's charity. Crucially, it's supposed to help women in need, which is what she so eminently fails to do because of her bias. She denied assistance to Eva Smith when she sought help after becoming what? What had she become that meant that she needed help more than any other women at the time? She'd become pregnant. Well done, guys. Yes, of course, she'd become pregnant. Sybil insists Eva lied about her what and situation. Pregos. Thank you. Exactly. What has she lied about? Identity. Mahi, nice. Name. People saying. Surname. Good. She calls herself Mrs. Burling. Okay, she's not married and she's not a Burling. And shows no, so Sybil shows no what for her actions. So let's use that word again from earlier. Remorse, totally. Or we could throw in another one, another great word, because remember, AO4 is pretty cool. Contrition, that is basically sorriness. How sorry you are is contrition. Okay, so she's contrite. Sorry, she's not contrite. She shows no contrition. We can use that in place of, remorse, regret, guilt, all of those sorts of things. All right. Okay. She blames Eva for her own misfortune and claims the what? Claims the what? Who's the person? Thank you, my guys. It is, of course, the father. Diego, can I use words everyone knows, please? I'm trying to use words that everyone knows and throw in extra words because you get marks for AO4 for your vocabulary. That's why I'm using those slightly more complex ones. Okay, buddy? Organa, sorrow instead of sorriness. No, because sorrow is when you are sad. Sorriness is when you are apologizing or feeling guilty about something. So slightly different. Anyway, I'm saying sorriness as a kind of shorthand for the actual word I'm trying to teach you, which is contrition. Okay, so sorriness is not obviously a real word. You want to use contrition. Okay, as the inspector pushes Sybil, she inadvertently condemns her own son. Thank you, guys. Eric, people filling this one in already, by stating that the father should be held what? The father is accountable. Maddie, nice one. Accountable or responsible. And forced to what? What should he be forced to do? Not pay for, actually. Not pay for. Lots of people saying pay for. It's take responsibility. No, it's something about his wrongs. No one remembering this specific detail. Loads of people saying take responsibility, but no, it is. Thank you, Ari Place. Appreciate that. Own up. You're closer. It is apologize. Well done. Make a show publicly. Well done, Nico. It is publicly confess his wrongs. Okay, crazy. Okay, Sheila and the audience quickly realize Eric's involvement, setting up a dramatic conclusion to the act where someone and someone come to realize it too. Okay, so Sheila and the audience know, but who else comes to realize it? Who else is on the stage? Well done, yeah. Okay, so let's just say Arthur and Sib, Mr. and Mrs. Burling, come to realize it too. And for a distraught Sheila to lament to her mother that she begged and begged her to stop with her indiscriminate condemnations. Ooh! Indiscriminate condemnations. Excellent AO4 there as well. Slimmy, I remember you, buddy. Someone just said, yeah, Constance, publicly declare. Spot on, for sure. M has just asked, can you get a question on Edna or Eva Smith? Can't get a question on Edna, can get a question on Eva Smith. All right, Act 3, let's rock and roll so we can jump into our quotes and analyses. Final one. Okay, Act 3 begins with Eric's what? Jason, we're going to be doing quotations straight after this. Christinian, why are the pens in different colours? No particular reason, buddy. No particular reason. Cookie Monster. Indiscriminate means you're not thinking about where you put your words, and condemnations is condemning people. Okay. Well then, guys, confession. Revealing his role in Eva Smith's tragic story. Eric admits that he met Eva again. Well done, you guys. Palace Bar. Just like Gerald did. And after a what? After a what encounter? Could be rude, yeah. Aisha, if you have a question, just ask the question, buddy. Yeah, drunken encounter, totally fair. Some people saying brief, also fair. Forced himself on her. He later discovered she was pregnant and attempted to what? Shanze, you're asking, what does it mean if someone is described as didactic? Didactic, if you are didactic, it means that you're instructive. You are telling people how to think, how to feel, how to behave. Okay, so it's instructional. Good. Attempted to offer her money. Yeah. Or help her financially, any of those sorts of things. But Eva refused to accept his what money? What is the money and why won't she accept it? Stolen, yeah. Stolen, or, if we want to be even more specific, is technically embezzled. Okay? Which means that it has been, because he didn't actually take it from anyone. He just basically faked some receipts so he could claim some money for the company which he has a stake in. Okay, so embezzled money. That's how he stole it. It's more specific than stolen. The Very Pig, you have a question. Could you say that the engagement ring is a motif symbolism for the broken relationship between aristocracy? For sure. Yeah, perfectly reasonable. Ashake, if the slide will have the answers in it. I will save these annotations. Yeah, I will see if I can get them posted out to you guys. All right. Arthur is mostly appalled that Eric did what? Well, stole money. It's a scandal. He's not so bothered that he forced himself on a woman or that he is associated with her. What a scumbag. As Eric's role becomes clear, the inspector delivers his final moral what? Cece, how long is this on for? It's 3 hours in total. This first session is going to go till 6:30. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, final moral, message, speech. Yeah, totally. Stresses that all members of the family contributed to Eva Smith's demise, either through their A's or N's. Around no worries, buddy. You're here now. A's or N's. Actions and neglect. Nice one, Taha. Either through their actions or neglect. Failing to act. Okay, he warns them and society at large that they must accept. Well done, guys. Social or moral responsibility for the well-being of others. Cool. Or even collective responsibility. Nice one, you guys. The inspector's closing remarks are haunting. If men will not learn this lesson, then they will learn it. They will be taught it in what and what and what. We of course know that it is fire. Yes. And blood, yes, and anguish. Ooh, spicy. Ominous statement serves as a warning, probably referring to the 2 world wars as well, because obviously the audience would know that those have already happened. Okay, after the inspector leaves, the family begin to what? Can you say Sheila is susceptible to her father's actions in the beginning? Yes, Sophie. Yeah, she's definitely part of the family, and she changes later. Okay, well done, guys. The family begins to fall apart. Nicely done. Sheila and Eric express guilt and a desire to what? We can have another really cool word, you guys. So the main point of this, apart from revising the plot, is also to boost our AO4. I want to use the word atone here, which is to make up for your wrongdoing. Okay, if you atone, you make up for your wrongdoing. Okay, while Arthur and Sybil are more concerned with protecting their what? Protecting their what? They're more bothered about protecting their... Nice. Yeah, someone pointing out atonement in Christianity. Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right, guys. Status, reputation, all of those. That is the most important thing to them, is their reputation, because they are members of society, high society, right? Tensions rise further when Gerald returns, claiming he's investigating the inspector and has discovered there is something of a police officer named Inspector Gould. Nice one, Cookie Monster. PT, yes, I will not use the green again. Thank you for saying me that. It says fall apart, by the way. No record. Well done, guys. No record of a police officer named Inspector School. The family realised they may have been somethinged. May have been somethinged. What do you think? Fooled. Someone has said had. Yeah, we've been had, which is a great way of slotting in that nice little idiomatic quotation from Burling there. Begin to question whether Eva Smith as Anne what? Bamboozled, hoodwinked. Love it, guys. Great words. Deceived, all of them great. Lordino, it's E before I and deceived, but yes. As an individual, well done, because they all saw the photo separately, right? Before getting confirmation from the where that nobody had died. Where did they get the information? Yeah, nice one, thank you. It is the infirmary or hospital, basically, right? Nobody died. While Sheila and Eric remained disturbed by their actions, Gerald, Arthur, and Sybil dismissed the incident as a what? What do we call it? As a hoax. Thank you, guys. As a hoax. Hoax. Their relief is short-lived, however, as the play ends with a dramatic twist. The what's something happens. The final kind of external sound in the play, really, really central to the message. The phone rings. Exactly. Just like the doorbell ringing at the start of the play, the phone rings and they learn that a young woman has just died in the infirmary after drinking disinfectant and that an inspector is indeed on his way. Okay, so that is the play. We've revised nice and easily the kind of the key content, as well as throwing in some really great AO4. You guys absolutely nailed it. Gabe, can you call it cyclical? Yes, you definitely can. You can definitely call it. Cyclical, because we end up with that kind of the motif of something ringing to signal the arrival of bad times for the family. Nice. Cue the X-File themes. Yes. Are we going to send a PowerPoint? Like I said, I will annotate it and I will hope that it will be made available. Right. 10 key quotes. Let's jump in. Jesse, why is it a cyclical structure? It's not entirely cyclical, but it starts and ends with the ringing of a bell to signal the arrival of, retribution or justice. Okay. A didactic message: the wealthy and capitalist need to accept social responsibility. Bell, yes, definitely. Okay, cool. What's a hoax? A hoax is where you get tricked. Azab, you get tricked. The third to last word says hoax. Oh, I put hoaxy. That was actually genuinely an accident. Just hoax. Sorry about that. Right, let's go in. William Braley, what is polysyndeton? Polysyndeton is where you use more conjunctions than are necessary. So like and, right? Okay. Is the bell like their conscience? Maybe, Lucy. Yeah, you can use that certainly as an interpretation of that symbol. Okay. Apologies, guys, for missing some of these questions. Hopefully I've answered the key ones. Okay. So let's just quickly talk about these key quotations before we jump into looking at a question together. All right, besties. So the Titanic, unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. Well, first of all, wrong. And what do we call this an example of? If the audience know, thank you, Ash. It is, of course, dramatic irony. Sorry, I lost control of my pen there. Dramatic irony. What do you think about the choice of word unsinkable? So that particular adjective, where do you think he has heard that? In fact, why do you think he has this opinion in the first place? Why do you think he has this opinion in the first place? Nice one, Jess. Bombastic. Yeah, because of the repetition there, for sure. Capitalist arrogance. Nice one, you guys. Okay, so he is, someone has just said beautifully, he is parroting. Okay, so he is clearly ignorant himself. He's not a ship expert. How can he possibly know? What does it mean? It shows that he believes what he hears. Okay, He believes what he hears, which means that he's not really the kind of person that you should be taking advice from. He's literally clearly just read it in a newspaper. It's unsinkable, which is the key word used in the kind of advertising and promotion of this ship, and he's just parroting it back. So he shouldn't really be the pontificating patriarch that he is. That's basically the man who rules the family. Pontificating is where you're opinionated and sharing your opinions, right? He shouldn't be the pontificating patriarch when he only believes what he hears. He doesn't have his own ideas, right? So again, great AO4. Don't feel like you have to use all of these AO4 terms, but they're just ones that I'm just throwing at you as opportunities. Okay. Hyperbole, yep. Can you say he's gullible? Yep, definitely. Charlotte, no one could predict the Titanic would sink. Yeah, so it's not about him being ignorant in terms of not knowing that this was coming. It's quite simply that he's just wrong. Everything that he talks about, he's wrong about. Okay. Yeah, Javin, pontificating is when you're overconfident. Yes, it's where you're sharing your opinions as if they are fact. You are waxing lyrical about that stuff. Okay. Then again, it's Burling. The way some of these cranks talk, and right now you'd think everyone has to look after everybody else. Okay. What do we think about his use of the word cranks? What do we think? Lorenzo absolutely is a submodifier. Yeah. Nice one. Yeah, guys. Yeah, totally. It's kind of dehumanizing and, of course, dismissive. Okay. It's entirely dismissive. These are not proper people. It is certainly derogatory. Look at all the D's. Right? Derogatory. Okay. Dehumanizing, dismissive, derogatory, all the D's, you calling them cranks, okay? And then, of course, everybody has to look after everybody else. He says it like it's a joke, but of course, that's the message of the play, right? And what's the AO3 link that we can make here? What happened in 1945 after the end of the war? Do you only need to learn these 5? Ishan, no, we're going to do hopefully 10, and there's probably more than that. The Labour election, nice one, Vienna. What happened as a result of the Labour election? What did they do? What did they launch? Nice one, Elias. Yeah, beautiful. So it is the welfare state, okay? Which is exactly that concept, okay? So this is incredibly prescient. In 1945, the Labour government under Clement Attlee launched the welfare state, which was all about attempting to kind of look after everyone else as a society through taxation, etc. Okay. Can you link it up to the mixed up in the bees in the hive? Yes, Luke, definitely. Mocking socialists, definitely. Yes, Aisha, yeah, totally. Okay. We love this quotation from the inspector. Yes, he is calling socialists cranks. Those are the ones that he's referring to when he's being derogatory, dismissive, and dehumanizing. Okay. Better to ask for the earth than to take it. Who has taken the earth? Who takes the earth? Who takes the earth, guys? Yeah, the capitalists, the upper classes. They take the earth. Okay, so this idea that they don't have permission, okay, so it's almost like it is theft. You could argue all property is theft, and you can link it to, yeah, you're absolutely right to say, Javin, the bourgeoisie, yeah. And who is asking for the earth? Who is asking for help? Who asks for help? They don't need permission as they're seen as socially superior. Exactly, Taneeth, exactly. Okay, yeah, so Eva, and Eva is, of course, as we always say, a microcosm for the working classes. Yeah, she's an individual who represents part of the whole. Another word you can use for that, by the way, guys, is synecdoche. Hopefully one of my mods can type that out because my pen is really thick today. Crazy. Okay, so she represents the working classes more generally than that. Okay, right. So what do we think of these girls aren't cheap labor, they are people? What is the difference between cheap labor and both girls and people. Abdi, do you have to zoom in on 2 words? You don't necessarily have to, no, but it's a nice way. If you zoom in on specific words, it's a nice way to do your AO2 close, tight analysis. Yeah, so cheap labor is dehumanizing, whereas people and girls is obviously more rehumanizing. That's not the real word for it, but I really like that Frederick Graves just said rehumanizing, because that's essentially what calling them girls and people rather than cheap labor does. She's arguing that point, isn't she? Relatedly, though, what about the fact that they are girls, not women? These are adults, right? These are clearly adults. So why are they being called? Why are they being called girls? What do we think? Yeah, you're absolutely right, guys. It's infantilizing. Thank you, Thea. Infantilizing, which means that they are kind of treated, even by Sheila, infantilized. Okay, seen as smaller. So this is obviously a gender comment. Even when she is attempting to talk about them as people, i.e. humanize them, she's still calling them girls rather than women when they are adult. They're obviously women, not girls. Okay. Next one, again from Sheila, and a lot of people are talking about how Sheila would be a great question to come up. I agree. Love Sheila. Exactly. Musab saying, like how Sheila is infantilized by her parents. Boom. Yes, exactly. So she does it back. It's internalized, isn't it? Ranju, loving these likes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you. I've been so happy tonight. Oh, I wish you hadn't told me. What do you think about this? I wish you hadn't told me. This is when Eva finds out about the suicide. What is she at this point in the play? What is she at this point in the play? Nico, exactly. Willful ignorance. Obadara, yeah, that's a nice kind of counterpoint there about saying they're too young to be treated that way. That's a nice way of doing it. Yeah. So she's willfully ignorant. And we need to compare this, CF, with later when she wants to stick around. She's insisting on staying in the room. No, I want to hear this. And, everyone's saying, oh, but it's going to upset you, honey. And she's like, bruh, don't you tell me what to do. I deserve to hear this. I'm his fiance, etc. Okay? So she develops later on in the play, but at this point, she's willfully ignorant. She wants to be the child. She wants to just be happy. Okay? You can link that to kind of pleased with herself from the stage directions at the start. Okay. Things are better. Yeah. All right. We're members of one body. We're responsible for each other. Do we need to really say much about this one? We've got our collective pronoun here, haven't we? Of we. Collective pronoun. He's not saying you need to be responsible for each other, saying we. Okay, this is all of society. This is not just a message to the Burlings, it is a message for all. Okay, so a universal message here about responsibility. It's not just the Burlings. I need to change the size of my pen later. Anyway, collective responsibility. Yes, Path, exactly. Okay. She needed not only money, but advice, sympathy, friendliness. You slammed the door in her face. What do we call this? You slammed the door in her face. This is not a literal thing that took place. Cumulative harm, Edspace Manager. Yes, exactly. Cumulative harm. It builds up for sure. The inspector is Priestley's mouthpiece. Yes, Kyra. We love that phrase, don't we? I see it in every essay that's ever been written. What methods, Charlotte? So this here is an idiom. It is, of course, hyperbolic. There was no actual door slamming, but it's a hyperbolic idiom. There you go. So lots of people wanting these kind of these bits of terminology. Terminology is less important than what you say about it. These kind of methods, right? But just something to think about. An idiom is a figure of speech, okay? So it's when a metaphor has kind of entered into general conversation. You don't need to explain or decode the metaphor, okay? We also can contrast here money with advice, sympathy, friendliness. What do all of these have in common? What do they all have in common compared with money? Ranju, what are you chatting, bro? You just said it's painful. What's painful? Advice, sympathy, and friendliness. Thank you, guys. They're all free, okay? These things are all free. Sybil chose not to give those alongside the money, okay? So we compare it with not giving money, fair enough, but being a scallywag, unnecessary, okay? Eric, to his father, you're not the kind of father a chap could go to when he's in trouble. Why is Eric talking about himself in the third person? A chap and he. Why is he talking about himself in the third person, you guys? Nice one. Yes, beautiful. Oh, you guys are amazing with these interpretations. Distancing himself from his actions, Avery. Absolving himself of his own guilt, YouTube K. Refusing to acknowledge his mistakes, Miss Smalls. You guys are amazing. Loads of other people have said the same thing here. So a chap and he, okay, he is abnegating. And those of you who are here for Macbeth will remember this phrase, abnegating responsibility. He is not accepting responsibility for his actions. And his actions are objectively heinous. He has literally forced himself on someone. The stealing of money is frankly irrelevant. Contrast that with this. Okay? Contrast it with this. You. What do we call that? For those of you asking about AQA, yes, it is AQA. What do we think? Yes. Direct address, good. Yeah, okay. So the direct address, this is the opposite. He is blaming. He's not accepting his own responsibility for what he has done. He does the same thing elsewhere, by the way, guys. He says about the drunkenness, he's like, I was in the state where a chap can easily turn nasty, right? He doesn't say himself. Okay. This word here is abnegating, which is the opposite of accepting. It is kind of refusing to accept. Okay. Super easy, this one. Remember that. Never forget it. What do we call these types of words that are commands? Yep. Yes, guys, some of the I don't get a chance to comment on every single one, but your comments are stunning. You're absolutely right to point out these are imperatives. So at this point in the play, Inspector Ghoul is being direct. Elsewhere in the play, he just asks questions, okay? So if we compare with earlier, most of his sentences are what we call interrogatives, i.e. questions. He's interrogating. Whereas at this point in the play, just before he goes, he switches to the imperatives, okay? He becomes, as a lot of people have said, didactic, which is directly instructional, okay? Nice one, you guys. Nice. Mara Banana, when are we going to do Power and Conflict? We're doing that at about 6:35, okay? Okay, let's go. Right, that was the police. A girl has just died on her way to the infirmary after swallowing some disinfectant. I mean, this is just our big reveal, isn't it? Okay, it's our big twist ending. What do we think, by the way, about the method of suicide? What do we think about the method of suicide that she chooses? It's a pretty dark thing to talk about. Yeah, it is painful. Think about the symbolism as well. What else? Thank you, Bal. Appreciate that, buddy. Nice one. It is cheap. It is cleansing. Exactly. Nice. It is cleansing. Someone asked about didactic. Didactic means instructional. Yeah. Exactly, guys. Yeah. Parry, yeah, purging that bad stuff. Okay, and all of these are incredibly symbolic. Okay, so painful, she's choosing to suffer even at the end of her life when she has suffered enough already. Okay, she's still choosing to suffer. It is cheap, okay, because of her class. And then it is cleansing or purging as if she is trying to remove herself from that, trying to remove that bad stuff from herself in society. Nice. You could, someone's just said volta. You could call this twist a volta. Usually we would reserve that for talking about lineation in poetry. But yeah, you can call it a volta. You're not going to get called out for that. It's Chloe. Instructional means it's trying to teach you something. Yeah? Okay, so if we think about the question, you are assessed on all of the assessment objectives on this question. Okay, so for AO1, 12 marks for basically answering the question. AO2, 12 marks. Again, for analyzing your language, form, structure, etc., the writer's methods. 6 marks for context, okay? And of course, you're going to have a bonus 4 marks for your range of vocabulary, okay? Now, the accurate spelling punctuation thing, just basically ignore it because it's only 4 marks. Essentially, the way that you actually get these 4 marks is to boost your vocabulary. Okay, so think about where you can claim those marks. Obviously, you don't want to lose them by being accurate in your spag, but the way that you're actually going to claim them and get all 4 of them is by throwing in that key stuff. Okay, so let's talk about a sample question, shall we? Because we have about 10-15 minutes left of this session, do we want to talk about men and women or Eva Smith and influence? Okay, type in the chat. I would do a poll, but it's not letting me log into my own stream because apparently I'm not a subscriber to myself, which is insane. It's absurd. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to do this voting, and I'm just going to look at the screen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, vast majority of you are saying Eva. So we're going to go for Eva and influence. Okay, so I get ideas in the chat, you guys. The first thing to remember, right, Eva Smith can come up as a character. Loads of people think that you can't have Eva as a character, but you quite simply can, okay? Eva Smith is a fairly likely character to come up, quite simply because, I mean, she hasn't come up before for AQA, and because she's the centerpiece of this play, okay? So there's totally stuff that you can say. Ranju, you're not allowed to subscribe to yourself. Basically, I've been kicked out of my OBS. I'll sort it during the break, but it'll be okay. I'll be able to run some polls later. JC, yeah, this is not a prediction. This is me saying that this question can come up for those who say that it can't come up, basically. Okay, so Eva Smith is totally legit question to come up. So let's talk about Eva Smith and influence. What do we think? Jesse Bates, I think you're quoting from Jekyll and Hyde there with Trampled Calmly. What do you think? Zara, can you say Eva is hypocritical towards capitalism because she wants a higher wage? No, because capitalism is about building capital rather than wages. Okay, so it's quite a significant difference there because of the hierarchy that's associated with that. Okay, how likely is it that? How likely is it? Someone just said, I can't see the question. My apologies. Your school predicts that it will come up, does it, Daisy? Fair enough. Okay, so there's so much that we can talk about when it comes to Eva Smith. She was young, grateful, warm-hearted, sunny, exactly. What about, so if we talk about her, all right, in terms of influence, okay, she's pretty and female. Significance of that. What's the relevance of that? What does that allow her to do and what does it stop her from doing, okay? If we think about it in terms of pros and cons, so for influence, let's break it down. Because this could basically be an entire essay here, right? Okay, so in terms of the pluses, okay, she gets the financial support, right? She gets the financial support. Hurrah, hurrah. She could get married, okay? She could have that opportunity to marry upwards, which, you know, a long, long time ago, you know, over 100 years ago, that might have been seen as a success, as a win, right? Okay. However, how is it a negative? How is it a negative? And we can, pretty privilege, Erin, yeah, for sure. Leading the strikes. Okay, so you're absolutely right in saying that she was memorable in the strikes because of her beauty and looks, right? Use a commodity, beautiful word. Okay, she becomes a commodity. She becomes commodified, and you can talk about that in terms of Gerald and, of course, Eric. And you can, of course, talk about the Palace Bar there as well, with her basically being associated with the women of the night, right? You could see it as a possibility that she could go to the women's charity. But it doesn't work out for her. Okay, so there's just a kind of a few things to think about. What about this could get married bit? Why does that not work out for her? Zara, a commodity is where you become a product to buy and sell, for sure. Do you have to use specific quotes from Eva or just quotes about her? TA, perfect question. There are no quotes from her, so they have to be the quotes about her. Okay. Okay, so the class, that's the thing that stops her from actually being married to one of these more powerful, wealthy gents. Okay, so that class differential basically works against her. Okay. Musty Medi. Everything does English is better. Mr. Everything English. Okay, well, go there then. She's a bit crazy, Ranju. Who is? Can you say the fact she has no quotes in the class? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so definitely. So the absence of lines for her, okay? No lines. And there's a few things that we can talk about there. She is, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so she is conceived of by others, okay? No words of her own. Could we link this to... Thank you for the glazing, for the love. You guys appreciate that. What do we think about the method of suicide in terms of her voice? Because that could for real be legitimate, right? Mira, yeah, maybe. So the disinfectant, it was swallowed, burnt inside, out. Okay, if that is not a metaphorical silencing, then I don't know what is. Ted MFN, Louis is upper class. What do you mean, like in society? I'm most certainly not. But thank you. Obadara, could you say a disadvantage is that she can't make an actual difference because she's a woman? Yeah, totally. And you can make that connection, can't you? You can make that kind of AO3 connection to the suffrage movement. Not yet underway. Okay. So if we jumped into how we would start this, I'm absolutely loving the Mr. Everything English. Is that his name? Mr. Everything? Yeah. All of the glazing in the chat. I think you're on the wrong stream for that. Take it to him. Duha, Abdel Karim, my friend. I remember you. Thank you. Appreciate the love. Okay. What do I think about the predictions? I think predictions are a foolish thing to do for charlatans to get followers. Anyway, guys, this is going to be our thesis. Okay. So thesis should contain, it should contain an answer to the question. It should contain at least a quote. It should contain an AO3 reference, okay? And we can do that in one sentence. Woo! Len, he got predictions right. Guys, we're not talking about other creators on here right now. We don't do predictions here, so we're not going to be talking about predictions. Okay. Do you lose marks for not doing a thesis statement? To no hand, it guides your answer. So I would recommend doing it. It's not getting you marks in itself. Okay. Ayan, do I remember you? I taught a boy called Ayan about 6 years ago. Was it you? or are you talking about someone who's joined these classes? Okay, right. So this is how we start it. So remember, it is about Eva Smith and is about influence. My AO3 reference is obviously going to be about suffrage and the different dates that are relevant. Okay. My answer overview is going to be that she is basically about her commodification and lack of voice / influence. And my quote is probably going to be, what's it going to be? Can't even say, no, we're going to go with the disinfectant one, aren't we? Okay. Disinfectant line. Okay. So that's basically my kind of overview plan. And this is how it's going to look written down. I'm going to try and do this in a minute. If we run into the break, then we will do. Okay. A thesis, Isabella, is just an introduction sentence. Okay. So let's jump in with Priestley. Priestley presents Eva Smith as a tragic character lacking in viable avenues for influence. Okay, so viable avenues is me kind of ticking my AO4 box. Okay, can you talk about stage directions? My heck, yes, you can, definitely. Priestley presents Eva Smith as a tragic character lacking in viable avenues for influence due to her gender and class. Okay, so this is me thinking, okay, I've ticked Eva Smith, I've ticked influence. I'm going to talk about commodification, lack of voice and influence, okay? Due to her gender and class that render her a commodity with no voice. Now I'm going to drop in my quotation. A metaphor made literal with the method of suicide drank, quote, some strong disinfectant, i.e. burning her insides out. Metaphor, blah, blah, blah. An idea made all the more tragic given that if she had lived, she would have seen life change for her with the success. Sorry if I'm not looking at the chat right, guys. I'm just trying to get this finished. I'll look at the chat in a second. With the success of the women's rights movement of the decade to follow. Boom. Okay, so this whole point that I'm trying to make in my opening sentence here, Elias, thank you. I'm trying my best with the handwriting. Sorry for the thick pen. Okay, I'm answering the question, okay, about her being a commodity. I've quoted about the disinfectant. I'm relating to the idea of women's suffrage, and I'm answering the question. So if I just quickly read it, this is my intro, yeah, okay? So this is one sentence. Just so you're aware, for those of you going, oh, this is really long, it's one sentence. You could fit this onto probably 5 lines, but it's a kind of an opening idea which ticks all of the assessment objective boxes. If I just point out, your AO1 is you answering the question. AO2, I'm referring to a specific method that is used with the choice of disinfectant, and my AO3 connecting here. My AO4 then, viable avenues, commodity, That'll be fine. Okay, so viable avenues in commodity. Okay, does that make sense as an idea for how you start an essay like this? Okay, so yeah, it is essentially a paragraph, but it fits into one sentence. For those of you saying it is 10 lines, yes, but it would fit into 5 lines on an arts booklet, which would be twice as wide. Most people can fit about 10 words on a line. I've got 5-ish on each line here. I'll quickly read it to you for those of you who are asking. I know people have to switch over streams in a second, but I'll just very quickly. Priestley presents Eva Smith as a tragic character lacking in viable avenues for influence due to her gender and class that render her a commodity with no voice. A metaphor made literal with a method of suicide, drank some strong disinfectant, i.e. burning her insides out, an idea made all the more tragic given that if she had lived, she would have seen life change for her with the success of the women's rights movement of the decade to follow. Okay, so that is how we do our introduction, AO1, AO2, AO3, ticking those boxes, and then we can go deep into our analysis. Okay, AO3, for those asking, is context. Okay, take a breath. We're going to go straight into, I'm going to give you guys a 2-minute break and myself a 2-minute break. We're going to come back at 6:37 for power and conflict. Guys, in that 2-minute break, if you feel like going into your email inboxes and leaving a Trustpilot review, that would be amazing. Okay, so apologies guys for the 2-minute break because we just kind of ran over a little bit. Guys, if you need to take a longer break, then that's fine. Okay, we will catch up when we get here. Okay, you can always rewind the stream. All right, besties, catch you in a bit. Guys, I'm back. Missed you so much. How are we all doing? Welcome to those of you who were on Alex's stream and you are now with me for Power and Conflict. For those of you who don't know me, just a quick reminder of who I am. So I'm Louis, head of English here at My Headspace, fully qualified English teacher with over 11 years of teaching experience up and down the country. Studied English at Oxford and at Cambridge, got master's degrees from both, doing a PhD on the side, just to make sure that you guys are getting top quality education. 9 years of experience working alongside English exam boards, specifically AQA, relevant to us here. Blah, blah, I agree, FN. I do not like blowing my own trumpet. We're going to move on straight away. I don't like the glaze, not the self-glaze, that's for sure. All right. Apologies to those of you who didn't feel like you had a break. You can come and go as you wish. You can always pause the stream. You can always rewind it. It's going to be rewinded. It's going to be recorded, so you can obviously take your time with it, and you can like just jump in and out as you see fit. It is your evening, guys. You decide how you spend it. The breaks will be scheduled, obviously, for me to have a breathe, a quick breathe, and for those of you guys who need it, you can obviously hop away from the computer whenever you see fit. You are grown-ups, my friends. Okay, so the way that we're going to be doing the Power and Conflict cluster is we're going to be looking at 4 pairs of poems. We're going to be looking at the possible themes that might connect to them. And then we're going to be jumping into basically writing up an analytical comparison of 2 of those poems based on which ones we think are most relevant. Okay. Mehek has said, Louis, I'll pay you if you do my exam for me tomorrow. I promise. I appreciate that. I appreciate that hugely, but no. Daisy, what does PhD ongoing? It means that I'm doing a PhD, so a doctoral degree, a research degree in education, kind of part-time. Com is saying, Louis, people say AQA has said tissue can't come up due to its difficulty to so-called lower ability students. How factual is this? There have been comments. They have not been officially backed comments, but there have been comments from people at AQA who have said that the main reason it's in the anthology is to have things to compare to for those at the top of the kind of aiming for 9s and stuff, rather than it being the key like a poem that you'll be given. We can't guarantee that. You can never guarantee that. Guys, this is AQA for those of you asking. So obviously the Power and Conflict cluster from AQA. So if you're confused at which poems are up here, it may be because you're on a different exam board. So yeah, if you've got a different exam board, you've got different poems, it's probably going to be less relevant for you guys. So this is AQA. Azab, is this an hour long? This is going to be about an hour and a quarter. Yeah. Okay. Nice one. Thank you, Daisy. Someone said, are you a doctor? I will be. You'll be able to call me Dr. Louis if you're still with me when I finish my PhD. And yes, PhD is the highest degree level. Eva, the poems we'll be covering, just so you guys have a little forward look. For those of you who've printed your workbooks, you'll know this already. But My Last Duchess and Ozymandias, Exposure and Bayonet Charge, War Photographer and Remains, and The Prelude and Storm on the Island. Okay, and we're going to look at analysing one of those together. Okay. Mira, where am I? Cambridge. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our quick kind of connections and comparisons with reference to the theme, which is going to be in green, and then we're going to, once we've decided, once we've done each of those and we've done our kind of key analyses, we can then head back and look at choosing one of these pairs to do a little analysis of. Okay, so let's go. When will we finish? It'll be at 7:45 for this one, so just over an hour from now. ES has said, this is AQA and you do IC. What about Macbeth and A Christmas Carol, all of those? So we did our cram course before paper 1 on those ones, ES. Okay. Ed Spaceman, yeah, guys, so just so you guys know, but we will jump into these in a second, but please just be aware that if you have, inside knowledge and leaked questions, and someone from AQA said it's nonsense, okay? I promise you it is nonsense. There are no leaks. People would lose their jobs. They would lose their livelihoods if they were to leak questions like this. It would be a major, major loss. It's not going to happen. So please do not think that you have, there's anyone out there who has secret hidden knowledge. Okay, so please don't share predictions. We're not going to be doing predictions. The same poem can come up again. Yep. Lots of people saying Storm on the Island. I mean, based on what? Based on what? All right, let's lock in. Cool girl. He's so cute. You mean me? Thank you. All right, let's go. Okay, so My Last Duchess, if we think about cruelty in My Last Duchess and Ozymandias, in the exam, you guys will obviously know that you'll only be given one of these poems. It will be reproduced for you, and you would have to remember the quotes from the other poem. Okay? Eloise, can you get on with this? That's what I'm trying to do, bruh. That's what I'm trying to do. Go easy on me, fam. All right, so connections, guys. Cruelty. What can we say about cruelty in these 2 poems? Help me out. What connections? What do we think, guys? Help me out. Was that Tiny Tim? It was Tiny Tim, yep. Power of Man. What do we think? Give me more. I gave commands. All right. So I gave commands. This is a classic. Okay, so the cruelty. Then we've got, let's find it here. I gave commands. Okay. So someone exercising their power in a cruel way. And someone else has said that we've got the frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. Okay, so we've obviously got a connection here, haven't we, with that word command, the kind of abuse of power in terms of cruelty, the abuse of power from these two tyrants, someone else has just said, for sure. Nice one. Georgie is saying, in Ozymandias, it's the cruelty of nature. Okay, lovely. Okay, so the effect of nature, kind of the ravages of nature is a really nice kind of way of looking at it, isn't it? So you can obviously look at the kind of, the desert, the colossal wreck. It has been wrecked by nature. You can talk about the lifeless things that have been left, nothing beside remaining, linking to this idea of the desert, the decay, boundless and bare. So all of these things about nature having an effect. What about nature in My Last Duchess? Or can you compare it to the human side of this? Yeah, you can connect it to being a very human one. Okay. Someone saying that line object where you connect it is a very human versus nature with a cruelty. Yeah, that's a really lovely connection to make. For sure. Human innate evil. Yeah, for sure. Ian, what structure? We use leadhead. We'll do a paragraph together and you'll get to see how that looks. Yeah. Guys, hey mods, can you just a quick note for those who are just repeating their predictions for the poem, can you just give them the quick timeout, because I've warned them about sharing repeated predictions. Someone's asked about, can you get tissue because it's inaccessible? Like I said before, it's unlikely, but it's possible. They haven't said anything like that. Okay. Malevolent nature of humanity, Mile. Beautiful way of expressing it. Yeah. Georgia, how long should you spend on each question? So it recommends specific times in the exam, and you kind of build in your annotation time onto that. Lovely, Neve. In My Last Duchess, cruelty is human nature. Ozymandias, cruelty is mother nature, reprimanding others for wrongdoing. Yeah, beautiful, Neve. Lovely. The statues in both. Lovely. Okay, so Flo is talking about the permanence of power. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. Okay, so we can look at the capturing here, the capturing in art. What else have we got? That piece, A Wonder. So capturing these things in art. That's a beautiful one, okay? It's sculptor, well, these passions read. So we've got the connection of art capturing cruelty. And you could even talk about how it outlives the beauty. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because the artists here are essentially the ones who outlive the tyrants, aren't they? Okay, so the artist, i.e., the poet, or Fra Pandolf, or indeed the sculptor, they managed to outlive these tyrants that they're talking about. So cruelty has been outlived by the record of that cruelty. So that's quite an interesting one. Daisy, yeah, of course you can share analyses. That's kind of the point here. Definitely. Nice. Yeah, Etta, thank you for sharing that contextual detail there about Ramesses II. That is Ozymandias. This was a real life statue that was discovered. Lucy, love that. The cruel are morally hollow, trunkless, and the Duke doesn't care about his dead Duchess. A lovely connection there. Yeah. Just Kirsty, the possessive pronoun my symbolizes how the Duke sees women as an object or accessory. Yeah, lovely point. Technically, my is a possessive determiner rather than a possessive pronoun. The pronoun would be mine, but you're absolutely right to call it a possessive word there for sure. Beautiful. Unlucky C, is it a dramatic monologue? Yes, My Last Duchess is what we would call a dramatic monologue for sure. Neve talking about the crumbling rhyme scheme linking to the crumbling and decaying character for sure. Yazin, can you talk about Neptune in the statue? For sure. Yeah, you can talk about the relevance of it being Neptune that is taming the seahorse for sure. What is a dramatic monologue? Evie, it's where one person just talks uninterrupted. Ash, no predictions. We don't do predictions. Jim, a sonnet is a 14-line poem with specific rhyme scheme, popularized by Shakespeare, formerly popularized by Petrarch, usually focusing on the theme of love, but the love theme is less relevant here. Someone asking how many poems there are. There's 15. So people asking about the AO3 connections here. Well, both of these are based on real life characters from history. So the Duke speaking in this one was the Duke of Ferrara, whose first wife, his first Duchess, i.e. the former Duchess, died in mysterious circumstances. And the Ozymandias was essentially Ramesses II, who was an Egyptian pharaoh, whose statue was uncovered just before Shelley wrote this poem. Okay, so these kind of connections here, that they're real life tyrants who have been brought to life in the poetry. Ironically, it's quite an interesting kind of connection. You can point out how the bringing to life through the poetry shows that, you know, art and poetry outlive these tyrants who were so obsessed with power at the time, but whose power has since long faded. Okay. Okay. Can we go through the structure of a question? Yeah, Ash, we're gonna do like questions together for sure. Okay. Browning was a fan of Shelley. Flo, yes, they were relative contemporaries, and they were both what we call romantic poets. Someone's just pointed out romanticism too. So they kind of had a lot of adulation and respect for nature. They disagreed with kind of oppressive societies. Aisha, remember, you don't need to announce that you have a point to make or announce that you're asking a question. You can just answer it. Okay, so that's just a quick zoom through, because this is just a kind of a taster for when we come back to actually do a little write-up. Okay, Neve, how much write-up do we need? Well, it's worth 6 marks in the question. So I would say each paragraph just have a sentence at the end of it, maybe explaining a similarity or difference that you've made. Okay. Why 2 extracts, George? So we only get 1 in the exam, but I want to show you possible connections that you can make. Okay. Am I drinking beer? No, Lucy, I'm not. This is a caffeinated drink here, I'm pleased to say. Okay. What time are we doing unseen poetry? It's going to be at 7:45, I think, off the top of my head. Yes, 7:45. Okay, so connection here: bayonet charge and exposure, 2 obvious war poems. And we're talking about warfare experiences. What does that mean in the chat, guys? What does it mean to be? What does it mean to have a warfare experience? What do we think? Any thoughts? Lots of people asking about just answering a small number of, just revising a small number of poems. You reduce the certainty of being able to answer a question. But at this late in the game, I would say that that's totally legitimate approach. Yeah. Warfare experiences. Yeah. So it's what it's like to be a soldier. Warfare experiences is what it's like. Okay. So it's not about what is war. It's not about kind of more general concepts there. It's about what it's like to be a soldier. Okay. So bayonet charge, exposure. First connection, let's think about the level of action. How much action do we see in these 2 poems? And in fact, which one is more active than the other? What do you think? Help me out. Not much, Lucy. Which one has more action then? Bayonet charge, of course, has all the action. So have a look at the verb forms, okay? Suddenly he awoke and was running, okay? So we've got that progressive verb aspect, was running. It's not that he chose to run. He was already running as he woke up, okay? Before he even realized. He is stumbling across fields, okay? He is hearing, but not listening for. The bullets are smacking the belly out of the air. Okay, so notice that in the first kind of 5 lines that we have, it is all action with that what we call progressive verb aspect. That's just the ing, okay? It's just the ing. And you're absolutely right to say that this is in media res. for sure. Okay, this is in media res because it opens with the action. Comparatively, we have the massive absence of action in exposure. We have this incredibly on the nose refrain of nothing happens. Okay, this is all about inaction. Why focus on the inaction? Ishmael, ephemerality is a great word. Yeah, so talking about temporariness or transience. Yeah. Wheeze, what big idea does this link to? Well, this is the theme that's been given. The big idea is warfare experience, i.e. what it's like to be in the war. Okay, the futility of war, exactly. And specifically, right, if we think about but nothing happens, the word but there suggests that we're expecting something different. Okay, so what can we call this? We can call it an anticlimax. Okay, in a poem that is about war by a famous war poet, we're expecting action, but instead we get this anticlimax, which is in obviously massive contrast to the super intense active version here. And you're absolutely right. Someone has just pointed out that as an AO3 connection, you were promised. What were you promised as a soldier if you were enlisting in the British Army in the early 20th century? What were you promised in the propaganda that was out there? You were promised, yes, guys, thank you. So many of you saying this word here: nobility, honor, respect, and more than anything, glory. Okay, you were promised glory, and instead, what do you get? You get bad weather. You get this war of attrition. Okay, attrition is where you are gradually worn down by these kind of subtle things. So if you think about like Japanese water torture with like a single drop of water repeatedly, this idea of attrition, you're being worn down, and they're being worn down by the weather. So we have this huge contrast here between the action of bayonet charge and the inaction of exposure. What else, though? What else can we connect in these two poems in terms of warfare experiences? Hadi, what if you don't do any comparison? You do like 4 pages in the extract. How many marks you capped at? You're not going to get over a level 3 for that because you're asked to talk about both poems. Harvey, yeah, like erosion in geography, for sure. What do we think? Contrast of honor, pathetic fallacy. Yeah, where's the pathetic fallacy in bayonet charge, though? Group versus individual. Yeah, love that. Okay, so I can't see who just said that. Sean. Yeah, okay, so Sean has said we can talk about the experience of the individual versus the collective us, right? So there's lots of we and our and us and all of that kind of stuff in exposure, contrasted with he, his, etc. What's the significance of that in terms of what it does to the experience? Okay, so collective, and let's talk about the fact that it's also first person. Okay, it's us versus individual, third person. Okay, what do we think about that? About this difference? Amy, does this count as revising? You better believe it. This is revising for sure. That's what we're doing. Do you need context for this question, Hannah Flo? Yes, you do. Yeah, for AQA certainly. Hi, Kriens. With this question, can we use non-combatants' experience of warfare? I mean, is it going to be particularly relevant to the question? In theory, yeah. Shared universal effect, the universal experience, nice comradeship. Do we see the comradeship, do we think? Is there any sense of it being better that they're all together? Do we get that vibe? Because I can totally see... Oh, hi, Koreans. Yeah, could you connect it to Poppy's with a non-combat experience of warfare? Yes, you could. You could, yeah. That's a very good question. So the effect of war outside of the effect directly on the soldiers, for sure. Annika, should you revise all poems? If you've got time to do it tonight, buddy, then yeah. What do we think? Does remains count as warfare? Yes, it does, because it's a soldier, even though it's kind of more kind of a domestic management than it is actual war. What are we saying? Is the promise of honor AO3? Ed Space Manager, yeah. So that the promise of glory, because of the propaganda that was circulating around World War One. Power of man, nice. Losing dignity is in both, definitely. Yeah, I love that. That's a really nice point. Okay, so dignity is a great connection to make for a kind of similarity. So the loss of dignity, where do we see that? What have we got? King, honor, human dignity. Okay, so what they're doing it for. Okay. So this is a really good connection. Okay, so the motive for fighting, if it's king, honor, human dignity, etc., that's supposed to be what you're fighting for. In this one, it is about the kind fires burning, the sun smiling on children or field or fruit, the invincible spring of God's love. Okay, so this motive for doing it, the king and country thing, we can of course make that AO3 connection as well to our propaganda, king and country. This is what you're doing this for. Yeah. Yeah, Aman, definitely. For love of God seems dying, shows the magnitude of loss. They feel that they have lost a God. Interesting. Yeah, they've certainly lost their religious belief. Yeah. Manu, sorry to hear that about your birthday, pal. Pontiac Kevin, what is AO3? AO3 is context. Yeah? Context. What's the opposite of free verse? Alex, well, it would depend on what specifically is being, what specific rhyme scheme and meter is being used. Okay. Okay, so that's a quick overview of talking about warfare in those two poems. Now let's have a quick overview of talking about the concept of duty in War Photographer and Remains. For those of you asking about which poems to revise before tomorrow's exam, just do the pairs of poems that I'm doing here. If you don't know where to start with revising, then the pairs of poems that we've got here, you can go back and come back and kind of add further analyses and annotations. Yeah. How can you add context? Sophie, I'll show you how to do that because we're going to do a little write-up together in just a minute. Don't you worry. Alex, is there AO4 for this question? No. N Moha, how many quotes should we remember for each poem? I would say a good place to start would be 5. Issa, can last year's poem come up again? Yeah, technically. Yeah. Chelsea, what's the highest grade you can get without talking about context? Do you find it hard to find context on certain poems like Bayonet Charge? Yeah, I mean, think about context. It doesn't have to be necessarily historical events. It can be anything to do with society or a poet or anything like that. Ed Space Manager, your teacher didn't even teach us context. Well, hopefully you'll have some bit here. Mayhek, am I going to write a sample answer? Yes, I am. Yeah. Okay. Alex, can you just call it informal English and checking out my history? I would probably call it a Caribbean Creole. So Creole, but yeah, you can call it non-standard. Susu, you have to write 9 pages for a grade 7? No, absolutely not. Eloise, do I get paid for doing this? Well, my job is to be head of English for my Headspace. This is one of the streams that I'm doing as part of an overall job. So yes, but not directly. Okay, so let's have a look at War Photographer and the sense of duty. Linking that to Remains. Okay, so duty. What do we think? Carrie, what does tedious mean? Tedious means boring. Dia, yes, I will show you the structure like a model. Absolutely. Absolutely. How many paragraphs do you write for poems? MA, I would say probably 3 or 4. Like proper, robust ones. Noor, what is colloquial language? It's slang or non-standard English. Okay. Susu is saying, can I say this? A priest preparing photographer feels like his role is so important. It's like a religious duty. Yes, lovely. Okay, so we can talk about the duty here. A priest preparing to intone a mass. So it is obviously very reverent, which is respectful and important and solemn. So that sense of duty, it is a very respected thing. Krish Dutta, I love you, Louis. I love you too, buddy. Thank you. Thank you, bestie. Appreciate that. Summer Moon, can you get AO3 marks for just saying modern society? Yeah, for sure. Riri, duty is your, like, what you are expected to do, what you have to do as a person. Gavin, we'll look at Leadhead in a second, don't you worry. Guys, those of you asking questions about connecting other poems together, we can talk about those after we've done our model. Let's try and keep our focus on the poems that are on the screen. Otherwise, it's going to get too chaotic. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. So I'm trying to cycle through these comments that are actually relevant here. Nice. A couple of people talking about in remains, the duty being the fact that they were sent out by other people. Okay, so we got sent out. Okay, so there's no choice here. Okay, there is no choice. Compare that with owning this idea of it being your job to do it. Okay, so no choice. We got sent out, and it is a duty to do so. Okay. Are we doing more I see you later? In spectacles, Marada Banana. No, I can answer questions on it later, but we're not doing extra stuff on it. We're trying to fit it all into 3 hours. But I will be available on TikTok later on tonight if people want to drop me DMs about specific questions that I miss. Okay. What's the highest grade you can get without talking about context? Chelsea, I think so I mentioned this one here. You're going to miss out on 6 possible marks, and it's unlikely you would get to the top band in AO1 or AO2 if you miss out on AO3 as well. So I'd say you can probably be capped at a grade 3, but don't do no context, even if you can still get an okay mark. Okay. JJ, what structure should we use? At the moment, we're just annotating and finding connections. I will show you how we do our structuring of poem analyses, comparative analyses in a little bit. Okay, so hold your horses, besties. Scarlet the Gamer, thought we didn't need AO3 for poems. Yeah, we need AO3, we don't need AO4. Okay, AO3 is context. Okay, Jim, you're back. Well done, buddy. Missed you. Is 5 poems enough? Mataza, it's good play for tonight. Yeah. If we could go back in time, I would say learn more. But for 5, yeah. Are we doing exposure? Jesse, we just talked about exposure. You can rewind the stream if you missed it. Should we do a thesis statement for poetry? Realistically, I'll just jump in and do the comparisons. So each of your paragraphs is going to have a thesis statement. It's just not going to have an overall thesis for the poem. Okay. What is the point for these lines comparing then? Ethan, what do you mean, buddy? We're finding our connections so that when we write them up in a minute, we can kind of decide. Callum, no use. You got this, bro. You'll smash it. All right, guys, anything else we can say about duty? Because it seems like people are just asking general questions right now. Let's try and focus. In the third stanza, positivity show. In the third stanza, the photographer remembers how people are affected by war, but they cannot do anything about it since it's their duty. Okay, lovely. So having to be detached. Okay, lovely. To do what someone must. Okay. So yeah, so that the lack of action and the duty to just record it and do nothing. We can contrast that, can't we, with the duty to act without thinking, right? Okay, so all 3 of us of the same mind, open fire. Okay, so this sense here of intervention versus detachment as your duty. Okay, so they have totally different duties. The duty of the soldier in Remains is to get involved and fire the gun, whereas the duty of the war photographer is to just snap the camera and not get involved with anything, not interact, not intervene. Okay, someone was asking about what it says up here. It says reverent, important, and solemn. Apologies for the handwriting there. This is a weak question, can't lie. Realistically, this is it's a very possible question. Duty is very relevant to both of these poems. They are all about duty, so it's totally possible. Chelsea, nice one. Yeah, so they do not care. So the effect there, right? They do not care. Contrasting with this, he's here in my head when I close my eyes. So the fact that we have people who care about the effect versus not caring about the effect of their duty. Okay, so the duty, pointless versus duty, very pointed. Okay, it leaves a lasting effect, whereas it has no effect on the others. Okay. Could London link to duty, Daisy? How? Yeah, Lucy, definitely a sense of self-awareness about the role that they have. I would say both of these poems, there's a lot of self-awareness of the role that they have, the impact that they have, the pain that they cause. Eli, any predictions? No predictions, just because they can repeat any poem they want. You've got a 1 in 15 chance of being right for the poem, and obviously a 1 in 100 chance of being right with your theme. So we're not going to do that. I think it's unwise to do so. Phoebe's saying, can you do how the mental conflict highlights how the soldiers feel obliged to apply for war for glory as it causes PTSD? Yeah, totally, Phoebe. Yeah, for sure. That kind of moral obligation to be part of it. Yeah. Exactly, guys. Okay, so some really, really lovely links and comparisons that we've made. If we're thinking about context, the thing to kind of remember is that neither of these are told from the perspective of someone actually involved in the war. Okay, so photographer Duffy, no experience of war. Armitage, no experience of war. They have interviewed other people. So these are second-hand accounts at best. Okay, second-hand accounts at best. And you could argue that war photographer is an even more distanced account because they're not actually involved in warfare. They're separated by another stage of being behind the camera. Okay. Shell shock is PTSD, Harvey. Yes. Nice. Okay. So, final pair to talk about and final theme to talk about before we do a little bit of writing together. Because I know people are always asking, can we do a kind of a write-up of comparison? Because it's the essay question people find most difficult. So I'm allotting the most time for it tonight. Okay. Daisy, my mouth isn't keeping up with my voice. Yeah. Rapid fire, my friend. Rec Rubik's Cube, what's the best quote for analysis for war photographer? I like the reader's eyeballs prick. It's a really good line in the poem because it's where the rhyme scheme breaks down. It's the only time you see any reaction from the audience, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Is the flight response PTSD? Cool go. It's often associated with PTSD, but fight, flight, fawn, freeze, etc. They're all responses to trauma. So you could argue that it's linked to trauma, but not necessarily a kind of later on post-traumatic. Okay. All right, let's go. So the prelude, humans' relationship with nature and storm on the island. Let's go. What are the connections? What are the connections here, my friends? George, how long until you do paragraph structure? It's going to be like 5 minutes. Guys, apologies if the workbook is looking slightly wrong. Let's make sure that we annotate the prelude and then make links out from there. Krish, can I sing for you? I just did my very best. All right. Okay, so humans' relationship with nature. What is the relationship with nature in each of these poems? Help me out. Connect it. Connect it. What can we do? Top 10 quotes for poetry. Jason, that's not really how it works because there's 15 poems. If we did top 10 quotes from 15 poems, we'd have 150 quotes, which just wouldn't be worth doing. Okay. Awesome. Fabulous. Yeah. Some really, really nice points coming through. Rec Rubik's VR. That is a weak joke, my friend. Grow up and make some better puns. Okay, bestie. Thank you. Which 5 poems should we know in depth that can link to anything? Rapid shorts. Like I said, I would start with the poems that we've got here because you'll have some key connections and annotations. Okay. Okay. There's no prelude. Okay, some of us are getting confused. This is AQA. It is the Power and Conflict Anthology. This is what we do. Okay. Futility of trying to overarch the power of nature. Aman, love that. Okay. So let's have the expectation. Someone just talked about how we have an expectation of good relationships with nature. Okay. Trees, which might prove company. Okay. Trees, natural shelter. The sea is company. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Okay, so in Storm on the Island, we're expecting nature to be our friend. We could do the same thing here, couldn't we? Where we go sparkling light, so the beauty of nature. What can we have? What can we see? Mountain echoes, leaving us still. Small circles glittering idly in the moon till they melted into. Okay, so we've got the beauty of nature, meaning we have an expectation for harmony with nature, and we're obviously going to connect that very soon to how that harmony is shattered. Okay, so expected harmony with nature. Okay, can we talk? What else? Can we analyze led by her summer? Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to say. We can think led by her refers to nature. If you look at the rest of the poem, it's talking about nature in a previous stanza. So her is definitely nature. A personification, you're right to say, for sure. JC, prelude isn't in it. What are you chatting, bro? It's not in the pack, not in the workbook. I apologize. So do your annotations on the poem that is there and make connections to your own anthology. Yeah, okay, so a couple of people saying on the workbook it's confused there. Can you mention the Parliament buildings with Storm on the Island? Okay, so like Stormont with the Parliament building. You totally could, but I'm not sure how that would connect to the prelude. Okay. Aman, all of our 25 friends from Dubai are watching you. Awesome. Hello, Dubai. How long do you recommend planning for? I would do your annotations of your given poem for like 5 minutes and another 5 minutes connecting to another poem and then jump straight in. Yes, exactly. Okay, cool. So someone has said the long-lasting effect. Okay, long-lasting effect of the of nature. Okay, of nature's kind of unpleasant situations. Okay, so they're hunger darkness, call it solitude or blank desertion. Move slowly through my mind, were a trouble to my dreams. Okay, so this little section here, the long-lasting effects, and then if we think here. In Storm on the Island, the lasting effect, this is obviously all kind of short term, okay? So what do? We just sit tight while wind dives and strafes invisibly. So for this particular connection, someone made a really nice point. I couldn't catch their name, who it was, but the, what's the word for it? The, how long does the effect last? Okay, so in Prelude, it lasts for a long time. He is haunted by this experience with the elfin pinnace, whereas the inhabitants of the island for Storm on the Island, they all just sit tight and wait for the storm to be over. So it's a very short-lived situation. Okay, nature is a formidable force, Olivia. Exactly. Okay, but ironically, the intense attack and bombardment in Storm on the Island has a less long-lasting effect than the very subtle kind of passive effect of nature on Wordsworth and the Prelude. Okay, so we get a kind of massive contrast there. Malililili, in the Prelude, the guy feels the sublime due to the overwhelming power of nature. Yeah, so it is the effect of the sublime on him. So if we talk about, if we want an AO3 connection here, we've got the effect of the Burkean sublime, which is basically where you're overwhelmed by the majesty and size of nature and a reminder of your own insignificance and smallness, right? Cool. Aman, romantics as a type of poet. So romantics were, they had a kind of a deep personal relationship with nature, and Wordsworth on the left for the Prelude was a romantic poet, whereas Heaney was not a romantic poet. It was much more recent. Okay. Why would we use the sublime? Okay. So the sublime, it's basically an explanation for why nature has had such a significant effect on this character. Okay. Interesting, Miss Smallface, they're kind of stuttering because of the repetition of huge, black and huge, like someone being overwhelmed and therefore unable to articulate themselves well. Yeah, that's a legit read. Can you say he's finding his path in life? M.A. What do you mean? So his whole poem, the prelude, the longer poem, of which this is only a tiny percentage, it is all about him growing up and his relationship with nature and poetry. So yeah, it is all about him finding his way in life. Divine does PvP. Loving these wild quotations, bro. By the prelude being epic in length, it suggests that it's more complex and vast than we realize. Layla, yeah, for sure. It's part of a longer poem about his life and it's autobiographical. Okay. Okay, cool. So there's loads of connections that we can make, but because we've got 25 minutes left, I think this would be a good time for us to do our model. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you which of the four connections, which of the four pairs we would like to talk about. Okay. This just from these options. Obviously, I would love to have done all the poems, but there's 15 of them and we wouldn't be able to fit it all into that time. Okay. Positivity show. One time your teacher said Wordsworth was aroused by nature. Is this going to be good in the exam? I really don't buy the argument of it being a sensual, erotic experience for him. I think I've heard people talk about it and I think it's nonsense. Okay, loads of people saying nature and this prelude one. So loads of people saying this one so far. Few people saying Milo's Statues and Ozymandias. Most people talking about nature with Storm on the Island and the prelude. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds to vote. What is this going to be recorded? Yes, you can watch this back later. You can watch back the full 3 hours at any point before the exam. Okay. Some people are saying pairs that aren't actually here. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, looks like we're going for this one. Okay, we're going to go for this one, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to do one analytical comparison paragraph. I'm going to show you how I lay this out because it is a kind of a specific structure that I use. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you what that specific structure is right here. So we do. Okay, guys, we can stop voting. So we have decided. The structure that I use is leadhead. And I will talk about what that means in just a second. Okay, and at the end, we connect to context. Okay, so in the leadhead structure, the approach that we take is we make a link. We do some analysis of the first poem. Okay, so this is analysis of the first and analysis of the second poem. So we get some evidence from the first poem, we analyze it, and we dissect its language use. Then we have our hookup phrase, so we're hooking our poems together, we're connecting them. Then we have our evidence. Then we have our analysis and our dissection from the second poem, and then we use context to explain the differences. Okay, so can I just ask you guys to point out what you've noticed about the ones that I've circled? The bits of the paragraph that I've circled, what are they doing? What are they doing? For those of you asking what's the difference between analysis and dissection. So analysis is where you're basically talking about the overall effect of the quotation, and the dissect is where you dig a little deeper. Nice one, you guys. You're absolutely right to say that these circled bits are where we're actually comparing, okay? It's where we're actually bringing our poems together or synthesizing them, Okay, so we're synthesizing, we are connecting, and we are explaining the link. Okay, that's the three things that we do that tick the box about this being comparative. Okay, there is no specific assessment objective for comparison, so we don't bounce between the two poems. As Braham Preetus just asked, you don't zigzag between the poems. Instead, you just focus on one and then on the other. The only connecting, you're absolutely right, the only connecting you do is your synthesis at the start, where you identify what you're connecting. You connect them in the middle with a phrase saying similarly or in contrast or whatever, and then you explain the link using context at the end of your paragraph. This middle bit is just a basic analytical structure that you guys do all the time. Flow, yes, your context has to be linked at the end, but what you're doing is you're explaining why you think these poems are similar or different based on the context that you've given. Okay, and I'll explain how that works. My mic is starting to bug, is it? Okay, let's just soothe it. Hey, buddy, we're all good. How you doing? All right. We're friends again. All right. Aman, let's compare indeed. Karam, how many paragraphs would you do? Fahad, how many, what time does this end? We've got 20 minutes. Okay. Jess, we don't need a conclusion. We don't need a conclusion, no. Yeah, I'll talk about how we do our context when we get there. Okay, so, yes, that was indeed intimate. My mic and I are good friends. We're very close. Okay, so human's relationship with nature in the prelude would be the question. So the poem would say, the question would say, how does the writer of the prelude and one other poem explore their feelings about human relationship with nature, basically? Okay. Abdurrahman, have we done it in spectacles? Yeah, we did it at the start at 5:30, so you can always go back and come back to it. Noor hates the prelude. I love the prelude, man. Lucy, no, again, all of these comments that people make about kind of connecting the prelude to an erotic experience, they don't fit with the rest of the poem, and they also don't fit with the fact that he feels traumatized by that experience. I just don't think it's a smart move. Okay. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make our connection. Okay. So the first link that we're going to make is going to be one of the ones that we talked about. So we talked about the effect. So that how long the effect of nature, how long does it last? Okay. So let's go in. I will explain hookup. Yeah, so Eve, hookup is literally a linking phrase. Okay, so something like similarly or in contrast. So you don't need to do anything extra here. You're literally just showing that you're about to go into your next poem. Okay, let's have a look at the first one then. Okay, so the first way, or the first contrast in how the writers or how the poets present the relationship between humans and nature. And by the way, guys, in future paragraphs, I would probably just say this relationship. I wouldn't write out the relationship between humans and nature because it would take too long. Okay. So the first contrast in how the poets present the relationship between humans and nature is in terms of how long nature or nature's affront affects the speaker. With Wordsworth, haunted for a long time, and the islanders quickly getting over it. Okay, that's my link sentence. Okay, this is me saying, here is the thing that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so the thing that I'm going to talk about is how long Nature's Affront affects the speaker. And then I'm going to show the two poems, how they differ in that regard. Okay, so Wordsworth and The Islanders. Okay, so this is the link sentence. This is where I'm talking about the thing that I'm comparing. Okay, the thing that I'm comparing and how it manifests in the two different poems. Okay, is it fine to have 3 quotes per poem with pre-planned analysis? Phoebe, if it links to the theme that's been given, yes. Okay, so my next sentence then is going to be going straight into evidence from poem 1, and then I'm going to analyze it and dissect it. Okay, so in the prelude, okay, so in the prelude, the speaker, and then we just need to think, okay, what is it that the, is that my thesis? Yeah, Ethan. So each sentence, each paragraph is going to have this kind of thesis where you're explaining what comparison you're going to make. Okay, so we're going to go with there hung a darkness. And in fact, I want to use the quote for many days. Okay, so look at how I embed my quotations here, guys. Okay, in the prelude, the speaker for many days is affected by a darkness that hung over him. Okay, so that there is my my first E, which is me giving evidence from poem 1. I'm then going to analyze it. I don't need a new sentence to do this. I can just do it as the rest of my sentence, suggesting. That's how I'm signaling that I'm doing my analysis here. So I'm going to put my A there just to kind of make it really clear. Suggesting that he has been haunted by his experience with the peak. Okay, that's my analysis. That's all I'm doing. I'm just doing my suggests. And then I'm going to zoom in, which is my dissection. Okay, so this is a really simple process, by the way, guys. Use promulgates. Ishmael, if it's relevant, I'll try and slot in promulgates just for you, buddy. We're now on to our dissection. So this is going to be my my D for dissection. I don't know why I labeled it with the wrong colors there. D for dissection there. With the, and I'm going to zoom in on specific language choices, okay? With the lexical choice, of many and the verb hung, combining to present an effect of sustained suffering. Okay, really, really simple. LEAD, I've done my lead. Lexical choice literally just means a choice of words. Okay, so lexical refers to words, and choice obviously is choice. The poet has chosen a specific word. Leal, yes, I remember you, buddy. Is lexical choice the same as lexical field? No. Lexical just relates to words. That's what lexical means. Okay. Yes. Is that all you have to write? No. No. This word here is suffering. This word here is suffering. Now I'm going to do my H for hookup. Okay. So my H for hookup is literally just one word. Okay. And it's going to be in contrast. Sorry, one word. It's going to be 2 words. And then I'm going to move on. Okay. So I'm just going to label that here. This is my H for hookup. All you do is you use a connecting phrase to launch straight into the second poem. Okay, and my second poem is going to have the same approach here. In contrast, in Storm on the Island, this is so good. Thank you, Shaliza. Appreciate that. Chelsea, I don't think there's any need to start a new paragraph when talking about the other poem, because otherwise you'll lose a sense of them being connected by the overview sentence. Shreya, yeah, it would end up being a grade 9, yeah. Okay. In contrast, in Storm on the Island, the speaker presents the islanders, so those are the people on the island, okay, presents the islanders as both prepared and willing to, where's my quotation? Sit tight, I think. Sit tight while the wind dives. Sit tight while the wind dives. That is my evidence, okay? That's my evidence from the second poem that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to go straight into my analysis. Okay, so my analysis I'm going to signal here in red, and I'm just going to use that word suggesting or implying. I'm going to go with implying this time. Implying that they are not traumatized by nature's violent assault. Okay, so that's my analysis. Okay, and then I'm going to go into my dissection, okay, where I'm going to zoom in on specific language choices that have come up. Okay, wrong color blue there. This is going to be my dissection. So D for dissection here. With the, and let's have a look, prepared, sit tight. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on this idiom here, sit tight, and maybe talk about prepared as well. With the idiom, so that's a figure of speech. With the idiom, sit tight, giving a casual sense to proceedings. They are routinely prepared for. I'm going to use that quote here of prepared. Okay, and that's my dissection. So all I do now at the end is my context, where I'm going to explain why I think we have this difference that I can attribute to the contextual differences between the two poems. Okay, epic. What does idiom mean? Idiom is a figure of speech. Okay, so if I say sit tight, I'm not asking you to, like, I don't know, like tense up your muscles so that you are literally tight. Sit tight just means to stay in the same place. Okay, so it is an idiom. Okay, Giovanni, lovely point you made there. I missed it, but you're absolutely right to say they're desensitized to the persistent violence with that euphemistic language. Beautiful. Yeah, lovely expression there. Thank you. Okay. How do you comment on structure? Harvey, only if there's something structural to talk about. Don't feel like you have to talk about structure. The AQA examiners have made it very, very clear. It is not a requirement to talk about structure. It is simply one of the many things that you can talk about. Okay, so now at my contextual sentence at the end, notice that it's literally only going to be 1/5 of my paragraph because it's only worth 6 marks overall. I am just going to explain the difference in the way that they present things based on the context. And I think the obvious thing to think about is that one of them is a romantic, so he's going to care about it, whereas one of them is what we call we can refer to the death of the naturalist. Death of a Naturalist, which was the poem collection that this came from, suggesting that he has given up the idea of being a naturalist based on the way that he's grown up. Okay, so that's the way we're going to explain the difference between them. Okay, so I'm going to signal to my examiner that I'm using context to explain the difference by saying it is perhaps unsurprising that Wordsworth's autobiographical poem dwells on nature, with him being a romantic poet, whilst Heaney experienced the death of a naturalist, showing how growing up detached him from his relationship with nature. Boom. Okay, so this is one kind of cracking paragraph. Obviously, like there are various little tweaks that you could make, but this is a very strong paragraph that ticks the boxes. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly read through it. And I will, so if you missed any of these words, I will just quickly explain it. Dahlia, do you need context in every paragraph? I would try to. So these leadhead C paragraphs, I would aim to do probably 3. Derek, you don't mark by paragraph, but this would be well on its way to a 9. Ethan, effect is usually a noun, so the effect, and affect is usually the verb, so it affects people. Okay, Aman, read it in a nice voice. I'll do my best. Okay. The first contrast in how the poets present the relationship between humans and nature is in terms of how long nature's affront affects the speaker, with Wordsworth haunted for a long time and the islanders quickly getting over it. In the prelude, the speaker for many days is affected by a darkness that hung over him, suggesting that he has been haunted by his experience with the peak, with the lexical choice of many and the verb hung combining to present an effect of sustained suffering. In contrast, in Storm on the Island, the speaker presents the islanders as both prepared and are willing to sit tight while the wind dives, implying that they are not traumatized by nature's violent assault, with the idiom sit tight giving a casual sense to proceedings that they are routinely prepared for. It is perhaps unsurprising that Wordsworth's autobiographical poem dwells on nature, with him being a romantic poet, whilst Heaney experienced the death of a naturalist, showing how growing up detached him from his relationship with nature. Ooh. All right. Okay. So there we have a very strong paragraph. Okay. Chelsea, you're funny. I like you. Thank you, buddy. So this is a very strong first paragraph. We could do, 2 or 3 more of these, exploring other connections between the poems with regards to humans' relationship with nature. Kalo, no way. This is grade 9. What's wrong with it, buddy? What's it lacking, my friend? What does affront mean? So Ruba, affront means like a challenge. If you're affronted by something, you've been challenged or offended by something. Louis Attenborough, nice. If only. What do you think? This is one paragraph. Dreams Great Challenge. Yeah, this is one paragraph. Okay, so this is just one paragraph. This is not the whole paragraph. Kalo, not enough waffle. Why do you think you'd be awarded marks for waffle? You're awarded marks for actually doing the job. Okay. Blue, would each paragraph be a separate point under the same theme? Yes, it would. Shan, do you have to do 4 what, how, whys? Shan, I mean, that's one way of approaching your analysis. Yeah. Aman, did I work in a school before this? Yeah, I worked in several schools over the last 10 years before we jumped into my headspace. There's no way that's grade 9. Ishmael, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? Dreamscape Dwellings. No, this is a perfect single paragraph. It's not a whole essay, just to clarify, but it is just one paragraph that ticks all of the boxes that you need. Okay. Do we do 3 more? Cookie Monster, yeah, that would be the plan. Yeah. Can we have a break? Yeah, we're going to have a break now before we jump into one scene. Yeah. I'm looking to see what people think is wrong with this. Hamza, do you not have to zoom? So the zoom bit is the dissection. So we've picked out specific quotes from our quotes, mini quotes from the longer quotes that we've got. Okay. Someone asking about predictions. We don't do predictions now. Hamza just asked that question about zooming. Where's Death of a Naturalist from? Great question, Ethan. Death of a Naturalist is the poetry collection that Storm on the Island was published in. Okay, so Seamus Heaney famously talked about his upbringing, loving nature, and then being kind of disturbed by nature, and then kind of developing a different relationship with nature. So Death of a Naturalist, someone who just loved nature, actually becomes a little bit more wary of it, Ethan. Okay. How many methods do you have to put? There's no specific number of methods that you have to do. Ishmael, do you not have to? Can you not analyze separately? You can, but it's asking you to have a synthesis at the start. So as long as you've got your link, you can analyze them separately in separate paragraphs if you want to, as long as you are talking about how they differently relate to the theme that has been given. Okay, Aman, it was just a sugar-free boost. It's the cheapest one I could find. Okay, Harrison, how many of these paragraphs would you do? I would do like 3 or 4 of these. That would be fine. Gabriel, Heaney's some mad waffler. Love Heaney. Heaney's a great guy. I think you may struggle with context, Jess. Yeah, so I mean, context is quite hard for some of the poems, but it's certainly doable. Okay. Don't you have to ping pong back and forth, Cookie Monster? No, you don't. You don't. So because there's no specific assessment objective for comparison in English literature, only in English language, you don't have to bounce back and forth. Dreamscape Dwellings, it's really short because it's very efficient. It's incredible. The reason that I invented this system here of Leadhead is because it's the most efficient way of ticking the boxes that you need to do. Okay, then you would repeat it across multiple paragraphs. Some paragraphs are going to go deeper into the language analysis. Some paragraphs you're going to spend a little bit more time on the context. Some paragraphs where it's a similarity, you would obviously spend less time defining the differences in your opening link sentence, etc., etc. But this is the best way to do it. Okay, nice one, Sean. Really pleased to hear it, buddy. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a quick break before we jump into Unseen Poetry. So if we come back at 1950. 1950, excellent year. Let's go with Unseen. Okay, take a quick break, pop to the loo, have a drink, breathe. Any of these questions that I miss, I will try and answer a little bit later on. All right, besties, thank you so much. BRB. Hey. What's up, you guys? I am back. Missed you all very much. Hope you have had an opportunity to breathe for a quick second. And you are ready to jump in with some more poetry, this time of the unseen variety. Okay. So a couple of things that I just want to let you know about before we go in with our final section for the final 40 minutes or so. We have launched a little AI essay coach. It's currently in its kind of testing phase. You guys will have early access, so you'll get to see it in its infancy. We've been training it up, and basically we'll be able to do some questions on the texts that are coming up, and it will basically give you some feedback. We've trained it to give feedback the way that I would give feedback. I will share the link in a little bit. Okay. Also, just a quick note on TikTok and YouTube. If you have a look at Louis Does English on both TikTok and YouTube, and also Alex Does English on TikTok and YouTube, you'll be able to see that we've done extended videos on all of the topics that we're looking at today. So, for example, I've done a YouTube, like a 10 to 15 minute YouTube video on all 15 of the poems in the anthology, as has Alex. There's also YouTube videos on how to approach the lead head question and write it up, and also on how to analyze unseen and write unseen poetry as well. So you'll be able to find all of those things on our YouTube and TikTok for extra insights. Anything that I missed tonight, you'll have an opportunity to jump in to a little bit later on. Okay. Trustpilot, I'm just going to remind you, please check your emails where you'll have a link to review this session. I would really appreciate it if you did. And of course, the other crams, you'll have crams for maths, for biology, for chemistry, and for physics, and they will all be covering both foundation and higher. So you'll have all of the help that you could possibly need. Vanny has just shared the AI coach. I'm not sure if I have the ability to pin messages. I'm hoping I do. It seems I don't because I'm not logged in. But Vanny has just shared the AI coach. I'll share it again later on. I just wanted to let you know that that's coming up. Okay. So it is time for us to do some unseen poetry. Okay. So I'm going to make no secret of the fact that I love unseen poetry. I think it is an awesome question. Okay. Guys, we'll talk about the AI coach. That was just a little teaser. We'll talk about it. I'll do a demo at the end of the session. Anyone else in the chat want to admit that they love unseen poetry, or is it literally just me? Is it literally just me that loves unseen? Because I love it. I think it's amazing. Anyone? Just me. Literally just me. Okay, there are a couple of people. My fellow unseen poetry stands. We will inherit the earth, you guys. It's pretty fun. Okay, so essentially, I just want to let you guys know it's incredibly easy. Okay. Well, is it plagiarism if you copy analysis on YouTube videos? It's very difficult to copyright analysis. Very difficult for it to be plagiarism if you're saying things that like are your interpretation of a text. The same wording as something else, that would be considered plagiarism, but otherwise no. Okay, Lucy, will the unseen poem be modern or could it be like Emily Dickinson? It can be, it can come from like quite a wide range of historical periods, but it will be an accessible poem. Okay, it's a really, really important thing to say, is that the poem that they will give you, the two poems they will give you, will be very accessible, i.e. you'll be able to understand them quite easily. Okay, so this particular poem that we're looking at, is called A Woman Work. And the question that you're being presented with is, how does the poet present the speaker's feelings about her life? Okay, so this is about her feelings about her life. That's what we're looking at. Now, the approach that I take, so you guys have seen this one already. That's cool. Some of you have seen it as an unseen poem. The approach that I take to this is called first. Okay, those of you who have seen any of my content before or who have come to my lessons will know that first is my approach to annotating poems that we've never seen before. Okay, so the F refers to the first and the last line. The I refers to imagery. The R refers to repetition, the S refers to structure, and the T refers to title. Okay, so what essentially that means is that we will have things to talk about with each of these features in any poem that we come across. All poems that we come across are going to have something to talk about with each of these categories. Okay, so it's a way to annotate, the poem. So let me just quickly read you the poem. Woman work. I've got children to tend, the clothes to mend, the floor to mop, the food to shop, then the chicken to fry, the baby to dry. I got company to feed, the garden to weed. I got the shirts to press, the tots to dress, the cane to be cut. I got to clean up this hut, then see about the sick and the cotton to pick. Shine on me, sunshine, rain on me, rain. Fall softly dewdrops and cool my brow again. Storm, blow me from here with your fiercest wind. Let me float across the sky till I can rest again. Fall gently, snowflakes cover me with white, cold, icy kisses, and let me rest tonight. Sun, rain, curving sky, mountains, oceans, leaf and stone. Star shine, moon glow. You're all that I call my own. Okay, so here we have Woman at Work, and we're thinking about the speaker's feelings about her life. Okay, making me fall asleep. Shalon, apologies, I wasn't trying to make you fall asleep. I was trying to be entertaining there. Okay, so then I'm going to go through and I'm going to annotate each of these things. Okay, so the first and last line, I've got the children to tend, and then we've got you're all that I can call my own. That's the first and the last line. We're not going to annotate these ones yet. We're going to jump in. Stereotypical. Lots of people giving some really great analyses as we go through. Imagery. What are we going to find? Cover me with white, cold, icy kisses and let me rest tonight. That's a nice piece of imagery. Repetition. Repetition. Let's have a look at what gets repeated. Let's go with this phrasing of shine on me, rain on me. That was awful. Sorry. Let me just rub that out. For repetition. Sorry, guys. For repetition. I'm just going to go with this structure: rain on me, shine on me, storm blow me, cover me. Okay, so this repeated structure here, that's going to be my R for repetition. My I for imagery is going to be that one there. My first and last line there. In terms of the structure, there's all sorts of things that we could talk about. Some people have talked about the anaphora here, so we can definitely come back to that one. Okay, so we've got the F, I, R, S, and then T. Let's think about the significance of the title. Okay, so the title here, woman work. There's various ways of interpreting this. So we're going to call this polysemy, okay, which is where you can have multiple interpretations. And let's think about woman work. We could call this an imperative if woman is vocative, right? So woman, comma, work woman, or it could be a noun phrase, as in this is the work of woman, okay? And that's deliberate there, isn't it? And we can explore that concept, okay? So woman work, polysemy, is it an imperative saying work woman, so encouraging women to work, or noun phrase, is it woman work, i.e. that this is the work of women, okay? In terms of the first and last line, what is the impression that we get? I've got the children to tend. You're all that I call my own. So if we talk about the difference here, we talk at the start about obligation. I've got the children to tend. Okay, so the obligation there versus at the end. You're all that I can call my own. There is a sense of kind of intrinsic motivation by the end there. You're all that I call my own, this kind of value that has been acquired. Okay, So value versus obligation from the first line to the last line. In terms of this imagery that has been used, polysemy, Abdurrahman, polysemy is where you have multiple different interpretations for the same thing. Loads of you guys talking about the enjambement. Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. You can talk about how listing highlights how she believes she's in an endless cycle of work, highlighting oppression, Phoebe. Yeah, and you can use that word monotony too. Beautiful stuff. Cover me with white, cold, icy kisses and let me rest tonight. Okay, so it's kind of, obviously this is, it's anthropomorphic. It's an anthropomorphic kind of, this idea that nature would heal her, right? Nature would heal her, but we need to compare that with her kind of real world obligations. Okay, so this seems, because I've used the word obligation twice now, in fact this could also refer to obligation here. It seems like this poem is all about obligation. She is forced or unable to choose what she does with her life. The word monotonous, by the way, guys, a couple of people have asked, is where things are repetitive. They just keep on going on and on and on and on and on. Okay. This structural, this repetition here, we can talk about shine on me, rain on me, blow on me, cover me, this kind of sense of she wants to be. So notice that, Riri is saying CF. CF means compare. It's a Latin phrase. But the shine on me, rain on me, notice that she is not the subject in any of these sentences. She wants these things to happen to her. She wants to be passive instead of having to be active. Okay, so she seeks passivity. Okay, in contrast with obligation. She's thinking, no, more things to do. Obligation, she wants to be passive. She just wants nature to take her away. Megan, XXX, is this too far-fetched? Alliteration of women work creates similarity, blurring the lines between them. Totally. Yeah, love that. That's a really nice one. Not too far-fetched at all. Okay, and then the structure, this kind of listing equals monotony. Okay. Boom. Okay, so overall message from this, if we take all of the things that we've annotated from first, and we could annotate more, but if we just get this as a minimum, right? First and last line, imagery, repetition, structure, and title, we've got things that we could make an essay out of, okay? Be super, super easy to make an essay out of just these things. I'm already starting to get a whole bunch of ideas. But from this, we can have our thesis, okay? So our thesis would basically be, what is this poem about when it comes to her feelings for her life? How does she feel about her life? What can we say about it? Lucy, you thought it was double entendre. Interesting spelling of entendre. You thought what was double entendre? Point it out to me and I'm happy to comment on that for you. Kai, comment, a rhyming couplet could show the inner conflict. Yeah. Tend, mend, mop, shop, fry, feed, weed. Fry, dry, feed, weed. Yeah. Yeah, you could totally talk about that kind of the use of the rhyming couplets early on in the poem. Okay, podcast and more. What example is this? This is AQA. Those of you asking about double entendre, it's a French expression. Double entendre basically means double meaning. So similar to ambiguity, similar to a pun, similar to polysemy. Basically, all of these ideas about having multiple meanings. Okay. How long does the essay have to be? Well, it's 24 marks. It's 24 marks. So it's going to be probably 3 paragraphs after you've done your initial thesis. Is this a past paper poem, Lucy? Yes, it is, yeah. Love this. Afia, she feels like the duties of her life are never ending. It's like she's stuck in a never ending cycle of chores. What's the solution, though? You're absolutely right. What's the solution to this? Mayhek, I'm going to trust the moderators to do what they're doing. If they're trying to keep you on track, then I'm going to back that. I haven't seen you say anything wrong, but I imagine they're trying to do their best. Okay, so let's just lock in, and I'm sure we won't be timed out again, my guy. Have I missed any questions? I can't see it there. What's the solution? What's the solution? Nature is her only resort. Afia, beautiful. Okay, so really nice points from Afia there. So thesis would essentially be, she feels trapped in obligations, right? And monotony. And she configures nature as an escape, right? Yeah, totally legit. What does intrinsic mean? Isa, intrinsic means inherent, internal. Okay, so something from within you. Okay, could you also describe the listing as anaphora? Yeah, so you've got a combination of anaphora and the listing features, but the listing is what creates the effect of it being monotonous rather than the anaphora, I would argue. Sorry, Samlock. The mods say they can't answer. Okay, so Ozymandias, good power of nature poem. Should I learn the prelude and possible get a bad sleep? I'd never recommend getting a bad sleep, but prelude is sorry, Ozymandias is a great power of nature poem. Yes, because it shows the effect of nature kind of taking away this tyrant's long forgotten power. All right, guys. So this is how we would approach kind of the start of this poem. Okay. Thank you, Sean. It's been my pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. So essentially what we're going to go in with is our thesis, which is just going to be one sentence talking about what the poem is doing. The poet, this is our thesis for the whole paragraph, doesn't need to be nearly as long as our thesis for the other ones. Okay. Chloe, what does it say about structure? It talks about the monotony, listing equals monotony. So it's become a boring, repetitive life. Okay. Can caesura happen at the end of a line? No, Miriam, caesura is specifically when it is within a line. If it's at the end of a line, we call that end stopping, which is more traditional for poetry. Okay. So the poet presents the speaker as feeling trapped by her endless obligations into a monotonous existence. Okay, that is my overall thesis for the whole essay. We don't need to say anything more than that. Okay, we're then just going to be thinking about the annotations as they come up in order. Okay, so we're going to start with our title, then our first line. We're going to have a nice comparative structural point to talk about its conflict with the last line. Then we're going to kind of jump into how it's carried by the imagery, and then potentially by the various repetition bits here. Okay, so that's kind of the that's kind of going to be our overall structure for the essay. Okay. Trips multiple. Why wasn't there a lesson today? What do you mean, buddy? I'm here right now. This is where I'm teaching right now. Okay, so we're now going to jump into talking about the first impressions, okay? So when you're answering a question like this, how does a poet present the speakers? Remember that this is an unseen poem, okay? And because it's unseen, your first impressions and the impression that you are left with is basically the way that you answer this question. You go, my first impression comes from the title of the poem. This is reinforced by or challenged by the end of, the first line of the poem, which is carried blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you talk about your experience of learning about her feelings on life. Okay? Okay, so jump in. Guys, those of you in different year groups, is lovely to see you. And it was a shame not to have our class tonight, but this is really important for the year 11s because they've got their exam tomorrow. So if we could just keep a low profile, I appreciate that. Okay. What's the question we're answering, Zane? The question is, in woman work, how does the poet present the speaker's feelings about her life? Okay. How long should you spend on this question, Katie? So it's 24 marks, so it's quite a lengthy essay. I'm just showing you the beginning of the essay. Okay, so the poet presents the speaker as feeling trapped by her endless obligations and monotonous existence. Our first impression, or our first sense of this, comes from the title. Comes from the title, Woman Work, whose polysemy, okay, so the polysemy, so the multiple meanings of which, whose polysemy suggests this could be vocative and therefore imperative, telling women to work, or a noun phrase of work for women. Either way, there is a sense of compulsory feminine duty. Boom. Okay. Can you use the first person? Your teacher saying you can't use I or we. Mehek, you don't. I wouldn't recommend it. But you can talk in the first person. You're gonna be losing marks for it. No. How many paragraphs is recommended for this question? I mean, probably 3 or 4. Okay. What's the difference between structure and form? Julian, form is basically the type of poem that it is, and kind of things like rhyme and meter. So the poetic features. Structure is how it's literally laid out on the page. Okay. All right, guys. So there I've talked about my first line. Okay. So if we're thinking about about the title. So I've started with my T. I've talked about the title. I'm now going to go into talking about my first line of the poem, because that is where we get the development or challenge to our first impression of the poem. Okay. Julian, how many different parts of the poem do we need to know? Honestly, it's not really important. Form is really very rarely something that you can talk about. Cookie Monster, does anyone even understand the structure? We're literally just going through the aspects of first, these features of first that we've done here, but we're doing them in the order that they come up in the poem, rather than the order they come up in the acronym. Okay. I've done various YouTube videos and TikToks on how to approach this as well. Okay. Okay. Either way, there is a sense of compulsory feminine duty. Then we go into the first line. This sense is reinforced by the opening line phrasing got to, suggesting resentment of the childcare duties. Okay, does that make sense? Does your answer have to be in order? Zane, as long as you're covering enough of the poem and relating to the theme that's given, so the speaker's feelings about life, it doesn't matter about the order that you do it. Okay. Headspace Manager, it's a paragraph for all of them together. No, not so much. So the first paragraph will be on the title and first and last line. Then you would move on to imagery as you move through, or just basically whatever comes to your head. The first structure is more about annotating than it is about writing up your answer. Writing up your answer is just going through the things that you've annotated as they occur to you. Okay. For those of you asking about the specific process for this question, about how you kind of think it through, I've done full YouTube videos on this one that you can check out after the end of this stream, or you can ask me at the end when we have a bit of spare time. Okay, but I'm just going to move through this. Okay, so this is my first line here. Talking about the first line. I'm also going to relate it to the last line. By the last line, however, so this is me talking about structure because I'm comparing the first and the last line. By the last line, however, there is a sense of, what was the word that I used? Intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation. All that I call my own. Okay. But this time for nature, which appears to be the, not the poet, it's the speaker. The speaker's only balm in life. Okay, so all I'm doing here in my approach to this essay is I'm just working through the annotations that I've done here. Okay, so I'm ticking off title first because it's the first thing I see in the poem. Then I'm going through to my first and last line because it's the next thing that comes up in the poem and the overall impression I get of the poem. Then this remaining stuff I can talk about in any order that I want to. Okay, but I'm starting to build an argument here. Okay, so I might go into my imagery next, for example, and I might say, I might start my next paragraph with, yeah, you can use dashes in your essay, that's fine. You can go into this next one and go, this sense of nature being the only good in her life is carried by the imagery. Okay, and then I can start exploring the imagery that I've annotated here. Okay, so I'm going to the I of first next. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I've done my thesis as part of my opening sentence. I can separate it if I want to, but then my first main paragraph, I'm combining basically my overall impression, so the title and the first and last line. Then I'm going into the middle of the poem to pluck apart how it does those things. Okay. Okay, so that is the unseen poetry approach that I recommend, just to make sure that you always have stuff to say. You find those 5 annotations from first, you relate them to the theme, and then you explore them in the order that they come up in the poem. That's the way that I approach unseen poetry, the opening question. The comparative question, we're probably going to run over a little bit, guys. It's supposed to finish at 8:30, but it's just so that we have enough time to talk about these things. I'm going to potentially run over a little bit. Okay. Sakuna, Luda's English acronym. So the acronym, that's where you spell out a word using the beginning letters. So first and last line, imagery, repetition, structure, title. Okay. Can you mention rhyme scheme? Of course you can, Restive. Yeah. So rhyme scheme would have been a really interesting thing to talk about in that analysis there. Okay. So someone just asked me to go back. So we could have talked about the how the rhyme scheme changes. You know, you've got tend, mend, mop, shop, fry, dry, and then it's extended here. And then you've got feed, weed, press, dress, cut, hut, sick, pick. And then it breaks down here. And then you can kind of talk about the returning to the rhyme scheme. It would have been a really interesting thing to talk about. Kia MC, is this a whole response? No. No. This is just the opening. So I've got my thesis at the start. I've talked my first paragraph about the title and first line. I'm about to talk about imagery, and I would probably connect that to maybe structure, maybe the repetition as we get to it, as we move through our essay. Thesis is just an introduction. Okay. Okay, so the next poem is Overheard in County Sligo, and I'm looking at different feelings about their lives, okay? It's a fairly generic question. So I'm just going to be going through this and look at how this speaker feels about their life. FXOXO. No, it's not ABAB rhyme scheme. It starts with rhyming couplets. For those of you asking loads about rhyme, if you're not finding something interesting to say about rhyme immediately, then just forget about it because you don't have to do it. Okay. Guys, for any of you asking about structures that you might have missed about how to approach these questions, I have YouTube videos on all of these things that you can obviously go back and look at. Eva, do you use the first structure of the comparative essay? No. You just pick out the connections that you would be doing, and then you would explore it through Leadhead, which is the structure we use for writing it up. Okay, right, let's have a look at this poem. I married a man from County Roscommon, and I live in the back of beyond, with a field of cows and a yard of hens and 6 white geese on the pond. And my door's a square of yellow corn, caught up by its corners and shaken, and the road runs down through the open gate, and the freedom's there for the taking. I had thought to work on the Abbey stage, or have my name in a book, to see my thought on the printed page, or still the crowd with a look. But I turned to fold the breakfast cloth and polish the lustre and brass, to order and dust the tumbled rooms and find my face in the glass. I ought to feel I'm a happy woman, for I lie in the lap of the land, but I married a man from County Roscommon and I live in the back of beyond. Okay, so basically this poem is also about dissatisfaction with life. Dissatisfaction with life. Yeah, sad times. In this case, the issue is she's held back by the marriage. That's the thing that holds her back. All I'm doing, by the way, guys, is I'm finding things to talk about in terms of feelings between these two poems, okay? And I would contrast that with childcare in this one, okay? So what is it that they are obligated to do? Well, this one is about childcare and this one is about marriage, okay? The next one might be wanting to experience nature, okay? So we've got the wanting to explore, seeking out nature and being bored by nature, okay? So the things that they want are basically opposite, aren't they? So they both want out. They both want change. She's seeking out more nature. And she was seeking out, what is it? Fame. Okay, so she wanted fame. She's a lot more like Curly's wife, if any of you have ever read Of Mice and Men. Okay, so we've got obligations connecting them. They're different. One is childcare, one is marriage. They both want change in their lives. One is wanting nature, one is wanting fame. In terms of similarity and difference, Megan X, it doesn't really matter. You can have any balance of either similarities or differences. You can have all differences, all similarities, or a mixture of both. There's no rule about it. Remember, there's only 8 marks on this, so we're not going to go into supreme detail about it. What have we got? What else? What other connections could we have made? One being about more materialistic values. Yeah, for sure. With that kind of fame and materialism, totally. Remember, guys, this is only worth 8 marks, so you might just find, maybe 3 or 4 comparative points. You don't need to say a whole lot about it. Okay, maybe you could talk about the nature of what they're having to do. Turn to fold the breakfast cloth and polish the lustre and brass. Okay, so this is what they're obligated to do, whereas this one is clothes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the nature of the obligations. Okay, and that would be enough for us to kind of be jumping straight into this question. Now, in terms of answering this one, it's incredibly simple. You don't need to go into detail about your comparisons. You just need to identify them and exemplify them and a brief comment. Okay, so it's very similar to question 2 on English language paper 2, where you're just kind of synthesizing them. You're not doing deep analysis. Cookie Monster, the exam question will say similarities and or differences, so you can do either or both. Either of those is fine. This question, you only spend about 10 minutes, Hala, honestly. Okay, so both poems. Let's go with, I'll just show you 1 or 2 of these before we wrap up. Let's go with They Both Want Change. Okay, both poets present the dreams of imagined lives, though the speakers dream of different things. Okay, there is my difference. Okay. Okay. Should I do the unseen poems first and then the other ones? Mehek, I don't see any reason to do that now. You thought you compared methods. Imogen, yeah, so you're going to do that kind of as you go. So here is my thing that I'm comparing. Then I'm going to look at poem 1. In Woman Work, the speaker longs for nature and peace. Let's have a look at a quotation. Seeking sunshine, rain, and dewdrops. Okay. Seeking sunshine, rain, and dewdrops. All emblematic of nature in harmony. Now my connecting phrase, so notice how brief I'm being. I'm not going into extreme detail with any of these. Whilst, this is going to be my connecting phrase, whilst, what's my other poem? What's it called? Overheard. I'm just going to shorten the title there. Overheard. Dwells on dreams of, and what are they? Kerry, I answered this question earlier. Tedious means boring. Okay. I thought to work on the Abbey stage. Okay, so stage, book, page, and stage, book. Okay. Dreams of the stage and the page. And notice that they're not talking specifically about... yeah, Halle, you can shorten the name of the poem. That's absolutely fine. Okay. No, Lucy, we don't do lead head C for this one because, number one, there's no C because there's no context. We're just doing a much briefer version of it where we're going, if we were to give it an acronym, it would be the link, which is the same as you would do for lead head. And then it's just your, I guess, your Lee. Let's just call it Lee, guys. No, let's call it Lee because there's our hookup and then it's EA again. Lee. That's what we're going to go with. Lee. If so, we don't need the dissection where we go into depth, and we don't need our context at the end. Okay. So whilst overheard dwells of dreams of the stage and the page, with these, what are we going to call them? Synecdochic. So synecdoche is where you have one thing representing a bigger thing. So the stage represents being an actor and the page represents being a writer. So with these synecdochic images capturing her idealism. Boom. That's it. Okay. So that is 1 point. Okay. This is one link. You might do 2 more. Okay. So that question is really, really simple. Find your connection, whether it's a similarity or a difference. Give a quote from each poem and a brief comment on each of them. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so it's literally 2 sentences for each point. So this quick one is, both poets present the dreams of imagined lives, though the speakers dream of different things. In Woman Work, The speaker longs for nature and peace, seeking sunshine, rain, and dewdrops, all emblematic of nature and harmony, whilst overheard dwells on dreams of the stage and the page, with the cynic Turkic images capturing her idealism. Okay, and then he would just do a couple of those. Okay. SG Vids, if you want to show enjambement, so if you were looking at like the speakers, your quote would be the, and then a slash to show that you're on a new line. That's how you would quote enjambement. So a slash represents a line break. Okay. Joy, what does the H mean in the acronym LIHI? So it's just the hookup. It's just where you're connecting them with your middle phrase of whilst, or something like on the other hand, or comparatively, or something like that. Okay, that's the H. Guys, that brings us to the end of the session. Now, I am obviously going to stick around to answer some questions and to demo to you how to use our AI essay coach. But I would really, 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 really appreciate it if you guys could, as I said before, check your email and leave us a review on Trustpilot. Like I said, guys, I am going to be answering as many questions as I can get through in the next few minutes, and then showing you how to use the AI essay coach. For those of you asking, by the way, that paragraph, that's just one link. That is not 8 marks there. You would then need to do maybe 2 more of those to get your full 8 marks. Okay, so let's call this 2 marks. Okay, ish. You wrote that, you get 2 marks, maybe 3. Okay. Okay, guys. It would be amazing if you could check your email for the confirmation of this session and then leave us a review on Trustpilot. Or you can just go straight to Trustpilot and leave us a review if you didn't sign up to the course, you just joined it later on. That's absolutely fine. Okay, I'll try and answer a few more questions, guys, as we are at the end. Sean, that's amazing news. No longer scared of unseen. We'll use first. Love to hear it. My guy. Olivia, is spag marks only for the inspector calls question? On this exam, yes. Yes, indeed. Would you lose marks for saying the name of the poem in a short abbreviation like MLD? Amar, absolutely not. MLD is a very common way that students write my last Duchess in the exam. You don't lose marks for it. You would write it out in full if you're analysing the title, like focusing on the word my or last or Duchess. But for the rest of it, obviously, MLD is absolutely fine as a shorthand. Yeah. Sakuna, office hours, basically that's going to be where you can talk to either Alex or me during the normal lesson time about any of the questions about these exams. So it's like this session, but it'll be much smaller and we'll get to have more one-to-one chat. Guys, thank you so much for your efforts tonight. Those of you who are heading out, thank you so much. Please do leave us a review. I will love you forever. And good luck in tomorrow's exam. You're going to absolutely nail it. I hope you feel more confident now. So Cookie Monster. So the structure for first, in terms of writing it up, you literally just do it in the order that it comes up. So the first thing you see is the title. Then you see the first line. Then I would recommend getting a structure idea in there by comparing the first line with the last line, and then talk about any of the others in any order that you think is relevant to the argument you're making about the theme. For the 8 marks question, it's literally just, here is a similarity or difference. Here it is in the first poem. Here it is in the second poem. And then you do it a couple of times. Megan Triple X, can you do an overview of how long to spend on each question? I actually back what they say on the exam paper about how long to spend on each section, because it includes the annotation time as well. So I'm not going to break it down in too much detail, but that's I would follow the advice in the exam because it tells you how long to spend on each section. Kalo, paragraph structure for uninspected calls. The paragraph structure is essentially AO1, AO2, AO3. So answer one aspect of the question, then analyze some writer's methods in detail, and then link it out to AO3 at the end. Okay, so the bulk of your paragraph is going to be AO2 analysis. Yash, no, you're the best. My guy. Thank you, buddy. Writing structure for the poems, Marimba, for comparative, for the anthology, is Leadhead C. If you go back in the video, I did a full paragraph of how to do that. There's also write-ups on my YouTube of how to do Leadhead as well, and on TikTok. So there's a whole lot. How many paragraphs did you do for the unseen Mahi? For the first question, 24 marker, I would probably be doing, once you've done your thesis sentence, I'll probably be doing 3 or 4 robust paragraphs, teasing out the aspect of first. Saya, that's amazing news. You are definitely not cooked. You are going to slay. I'm very proud of you. Nice one. I'm really glad you're feeling more confident. Nice one, buddy. Chelsea, do you need to do single word analysis for the final 8 marker? No, because it's only 8 marks. I would work on getting a couple more links down rather than zooming in too much on the language choices. Isa, how would you add context for themes such as themes such as nature or identity? Well, if it's on the any poem written by a romantic poet, they care deeply about nature and identity. Young Gems, how many quotes do you need for an Inspector Calls? I would probably have maybe 2 or 3 per paragraph would likely be enough. Bed Wars wins. Thank you, buddy. Really pleased to hear it. Megan X, it literally says on the exam paper, you can just pick out a past paper and have a look at that, but it will also say on your exam paper tomorrow. Chelsea, I've answered that question about single word analysis. Yeah, I said slay. How embarrassing. Is it possible, FXOXO, is it possible that some of the poems chosen from Power and Conflict in previous years will come up again? Yes, it's possible. It is possible. The AI link I think has already been shared in the chat, but it's literally I'll write it down because I don't have a way of typing into the chat anymore. But it's literally myedspace.co.uk / ooh, come back here /AI / SAI. Okay, that's the link. Oh, there we go. Vanny's just shared it. Thank you so much, Vanny, super mod. Okay, so that's the link for the AI essay coach, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like right about now. Okay, so if you followed this link, this is what it would look like. So the AI essay coach, it's going to look like this on your homepage. Okay. And where are you? There you are. Okay. You will arrive on this page and you have to enter a valid email address. So I would do something like louis@test.co.uk, right? That's a fake email address. You can't reach me on that one, guys. AI essay coach. And then you would start. Would I like to refresh the page? Yes, I would. Okay. I'll have to type that again. So Louis. So that's what would happen if I entered just Louis, just as a name. Have to do a valid email address, louis@test.co.uk. I'm going to start. And what we've got here, is a few, at the moment, we've only taught it how to mark these 3 questions, but there's one for an Inspector Calls, which is obviously from this paper. There's also a paper 1 language, creative writing question on there as well. If we did, for example, an Inspector Calls, we would type our essay in here. So I wrote one earlier. So if I just typed an answer to this essay question, like this, how are the older and younger generations presented differently in JB Priestley's and Inspector Calls? Okay, so older and younger generations. Great question. Power and conflict. So sorry, guys, I will answer some more of your questions in a second. Just demoing this, okay? And then I've gone through it and I think I'm not quite happy with this. So I'm just going to quickly ask a question to my Louis AI. And I'm going to say, I have a plan, but I don't know where to begin. Or I'm going to type something else like, what's Mr. Burling's first name? I might ask it that. Mr. Burling's first name is Arthur, often referred to as Arthur Burling in stage directions, and one of the characters speak about him. Okay? And then it's telling me to focus on actually answering the question. If you're thinking about how to use that in your answer to a question, let me know and we can build from there. Okay? So this can give you a little bit of coaching. Sorry, I'm in the way of it here. I'm coaching it here. It's coaching me here, little Louis AI. I go, okay, I've had enough of the coaching. I'm going to try and write it. I've written this essay. I've deliberately not made it perfect so I can get some feedback. Okay, so submit. Louis AI is having a think. Okay, it's gonna have a little think about the essay that I've written, and it's gonna try and give me some feedback on the essay that I've written. Okay, thanks for this. It's a very strong and thoughtful response with a lot to commend. You clearly understand the play's wider message and Priestley's political intentions. You've made some perceptive, well-developed points. Let's look at how you're doing across each assessment objective and what could be improved to push this even closer to full marks. Okay, so it's then going to break it down by AO. And it's saying that it's upper level 5. So it's not a full marks response. It's only an upper level 5. Here's how I could push it. Push your personal interpretations. Offer a more conceptualized line of argument. And it gives suggestions of things to include. Then for AO2, I'm only in lower level 6 for this one. So I'm not quite in that kind of 7, 8, 9 category for AO2. So I need to go deeper with my analysis. My AO3 is a solid level 6. It's really, really strong, my AO3. Okay, so I don't need to include much more there. My AO4, I've got full 4 marks for that one. Spelling, punctuation, and grammar are consistently accurate. Hooray. Overall, 28 out of 30, and then obviously plus those 4 SPAG marks there. And it's telling me how I could get those final 2 marks in that response. Okay, so currently, guys, for those who are asking about other questions, we only have the creative writing question from English Language Paper 1 and a question for In Spectacles and Blood Brothers. But because you guys are early access to this, you're the only people who are having this shared to you, you have an opportunity to test it out. And this is a really important bit. Give us feedback on how we can improve it ahead of your next cram session, okay? Because we're working on these things every day. If you click on that and give us some feedback, that would be amazing. We'd really, really appreciate it, okay? But this is a useful thing that you can use maybe tonight to do a practice. It is free, absolutely free. You guys have early access, so just follow that link. Hopefully, Vanny will share that link again. But that link there is going to take you here, and you can get a little bit of practice with an inspector calls or indeed Blood Brothers if you came from Alex's lesson there. Okay. I will be doing a language paper 1 cram course, on Thursday. And of course, we'll be doing a language paper 2 cram course later on. Vanny, if you could share that link again for people. I'm unable to pin for some reason. It's not letting me log in, so I can't pin the message, which is a bit of a drag. Let me see if I can do it actually from my phone. And then I'll answer a couple of questions, and then I will head off for the evening. Replace pinned message. I can do it from my phone. That's good. There we go. I've pinned the link to the AI essay coach. So hopefully that helps you guys out, okay? So please remember that feedback bit. Because you are early access, you have an opportunity to provide feedback so we can improve it ahead of your next exam, and obviously for future users. Use the AI chat as well so you can get more specific guidance on how to start your essay if you don't know where to start. All right, guys, I'm going to answer a few more questions and then we're going to wrap up. Please remember to leave us a Trustpilot review. What are we seeing, guys? On Power and Conflict, Hazard is saying, what do I do if I don't know any context on a poem that comes up? Make sure that you include context for the poem or a poem that you are comparing it with. So as long as you've got some context in there, you can get some marks. Remember, there's only 6 marks available for context anyway. So if you only have context for one of your poems, you're still going to get some marks for context, and you can just make sure that you absolutely nail it on your analysis and comparison of the 2 poems. Okay. Max Boker 13. If I write about Eva Smith, I'm fairly certain that's not standard English, my friend. I can't help you there. Aki, don't understand the difference between a level 5 and a level 6 response. Would including the writer's intentions and an alternative interpretation be enough to get you up a level into the top band? Aki, it's a really good question. Essentially, it's looking for perceptive and sustained. Okay, so you need to be writing enough, and perceptive means that you need to be really breaking apart the terms of the question. Alternative interpretations is one way of doing it. So you can go, it could suggest this, but also we can have this interpretation. Let's look at them on balance. You could also be considering writer's intention, but that's really a signpost for you bringing contextual ideas. So why is Priestley doing this? Well, because he's a socialist. That kind of thing is writer's intentions linking to context. That's kind of what examiners are looking for, yeah. AA, it doesn't currently do poetry. No, we're in the process of training it, but not ahead of this one. Daisy, for marking essays, do I think ChatGPT is good? I know that this AI is here, but to be honest, Daisy, only if you've trained ChatGPT to mark the question. So if you feed it the mark scheme and you give it a few sample responses, and the specific marks and the feedback from examiners, it can do a decent job. But we need to train the AIs for a reason, because they're not very good at marking unless they've been trained. Yeah. Julian, does the AI bot also mark for other examples? It doesn't, but it will tell you what makes a good essay and tell you about the play that you're studying. So it will still be beneficial to you, even if it's talking specifically about how to nail it for that exam board. So very slightly different in terms of AOs. Sai Sanketh, what do I suggest I do for the rest of the day and morning tomorrow? Honestly, it's quite late. We're coming up to 9 o'clock. I wouldn't usually work or revise past 10 o'clock, so you can still wind down and have enough sleep before your essay tomorrow. So I wouldn't spend too much longer on this stuff. You can watch back specific parts of this session. You can look at some of my YouTube videos and TikToks. And that would be probably a good use of your time, because you're not having to do some deep thinking and writing and stuff, but you're still getting some exposure to the content that comes up tomorrow. So that's why I recommend. Okay. The hood. Can we write anything we can infer from a quote as long as we can link it and build this idea? Yeah, there's no such thing as a kind of wrong interpretation, as long as it's plausible. Okay. Okay, best poems for power and conflict, please. Velux, I would go with the pairs that we looked at today. I picked those pairs because they cover as many themes as possible. So I would start with those 4 pairs, those 8 poems. Okay. Bilal, can the AI tell you what themes you can link the Inspector Calls character to Eva? Yeah, it will help you with connections and themes. Yeah. Blue, would I recommend going for the first or second question for an Inspector Calls? Does it make a difference? No. People perform equally well across the board. 2 days later, can I know the structure for what, buddy? For what? I'm going to stay for 2 more minutes, you guys. I'm going to stay for 2 more minutes. 2 days later, what structure do you need help with, buddy? Please, I hope it's not checking out my history. I like checking out my history, Fatima. I think it's fun. Football, do I have to add language techniques used in the Inspector Calls when analysing? No, as long as you're talking about the effect of language choices, you don't have to name it as a metaphor or personification or imperative verb or anything like that. As long as you're talking about the effect of language choices, that's more important. You can still do well without that. Mahi, thank you so much for your help. You're literally the best. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. Do leave us a Trustpilot review then, buddy. Hal, so Storm on the Island and Prelude go well together. I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so, very well. That's why we practiced it. 2 days later, what's the most likely character and other questions? I don't make predictions, buddy. There's literally no way of answering that question. Does your answer have to include fancy vocabulary to reach high levels like 5 or 6? Well, there are 4 marks for SPAG on the An Inspector Calls question. So for that question, I would say yes. Guys, lots of you are asking about what structure to use. You need to tell me for what question you're referring to. Otherwise, I can't help you. Okay. Julian, it's been my pleasure, my friend. Good luck. Do I recommend planning before writing? Hazaifa, yeah. If only briefly. Alex, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate the review. Alex Keep, people predicted Macbeth. Yes, I did. I didn't, because it's irresponsible to do so, because it confines people's revision. So I don't do predictions. The extract that we looked at for the Macbeth stream happened to be the one that came up in the exam, but it wasn't a prediction deliberately, because I wouldn't back myself that hard. All right, guys, if I've missed any of your questions, just drop me a message on TikTok. I'll be online for another hour or 2 before I toddle off to my beddy buys. But I'm happy to answer some more questions on there. But my throat is falling out of my face now, so I can hardly speak any longer. So I'm happy to type some responses a little bit later on. Thank you so much, guys. Please do leave us a review. Good luck in your exams tomorrow. I've got absolute confidence in you. I'm going to be posting a TikTok in the morning asking you how it all went and what questions came up. So do feel free to chat to me on there. But yeah, thank you, guys. You are superstars. Your analyses have been amazing all night. So I've got absolute faith that you guys will absolutely rock it. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a wonderful evening. Make sure you rest. And I will see you very, very soon for Language Paper 1 Cram. cram. See you guys. Bye.